Hello, everyone, and welcome to Smashbox TV Podcast 436. Terry Miller, the Disc Golf Guy, and we are here. Welcome in. Happy New Year, everyone.
2023 is going to be, it's already started out to be a little nutty.
Oh, okay.
I mean,
You think so?
I mean, we've got some player movement. We've got a lot of rumors going around right now of player movement and
True.
a lot of different stuff. I saw you today with wrenches in your hand.
Oh, yeah.
It doesn't get much crazier than that, Terry.
No, it was a wild ride. I'll save the full story for later, but
We'll go through it in the after show.
yeah, I had to retrieve something for my daughter that was dropped in the car, and it was far more effort and work. So, Kenzie, you're up past your bedtime. You're probably maybe watching. You're welcome, and yeah, you owe me big time now. So welcome in again. Happy New Year, everyone. Ran a little C tier over the weekend, a flex start. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but there is a ton of stuff going on. As you just referenced, the rumor mill is certainly locked and loaded.
Wild.
Yes, the rumor mill roof is on fire.
If all the rumors I've read are true, and I don't believe they are,
I think some of them conflict.
They do.
So that would make it a little impossible.
But if they're all true, I think that we would have a season that would rival last year's off season with a lot of the big moves with Kona and Ricky moving. And let me say it's crazy, but I'm not putting a lot of stock in any of the rumors right now.
Okay. Well, I think there is definitely plenty to be released. I know as early as tomorrow we're going to see a few more sponsor announcements. We've seen a couple of players that have still recently just said, hey, I'm leaving, but they haven't necessarily said where they're going to land. We saw a few more announcements made today. Specifically, I think the Clash team is one that really popped up and onto our radar. I know we've been talking about a lot of those competitors, and some of them have shifted and moved.
Anything spicy?
Oh, it's also spicy, right? Of course, Eric Oakley had announced that he is with Clash. Erica Stinchcomb, who we talked about a few weeks ago, had left Westside and is now with Clash. Scott Withers with Clash. James Proctor with Clash. So we saw quite a and Bobby Brown, Cool Daddy Slick Breeze himself,
going full time. So for those of you that don't know, Cool Daddy Slick Breeze, Bobby Brown was with. He was a long time ago. He was a solo guy.
He was independent, man.
He was, and then he went to Dynamic Discs. Was part of their big ascension. I think started the podcast Disc Golf Answer Man, one of the OGs in the podcasting realm. Worked with Dynamic for many years. Ended up moving out of Emporia over to Oklahoma somewhere. I believe Oklahoma City-ish. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Sounds right.
Sure.
And went independent. And immediately was working with a couple disc companies. We'll say disc-related companies. We had Clash and he had Whale Sax. And now, I mean, as any good company does, they turn around and look at the talent they have in Bobby Brown and pulled him on full-time, it sounds like.
I love it. And also a couple of names we've seen throwing Clash discs. I think of Evan Smith, Jacob Curtis, a.k.a. Cupcake. I've seen him out there repping the brand for the last, at least this last year. And then Gillis McDougall and Maya Miller are also listed as your North American Team Clash discs. Sayananda, I think we had a reference to her last week. She's officially re-upped with... No, just kidding. She's shifted.
West Side.
She shifted from Latitude over to West Side. That's what I meant. She's re-upped within the Trilogy
Within
family.
the Trilogy family, yes.
That's what I was going to say.
It had me panicked for a second. I'm like, that's not what I heard, Terry.
No. So, and there's still going to continue, as we said, to be some moving and shaking confirmations. I think we just saw a little bit, literally just, I just saw when I briefly checked the Facebooks, Alexis Mondahano mentioning how she'll be remaining with Discraft for her third year in a row. So
Team Innova on the first, almost everybody, they kind of just dropped everything. They did announce, well, they didn't announce anything, which is funny, but it was in some of the PR that both Henna and Evelina upped for 3 years.
Yes.
And no talk of any sort of compensation or benefits or anything like that. That's all being kept relatively hush-hush, I believe. But, I mean, that's big news in and of itself because both of them were free agents. I personally didn't think they were going anywhere with the relationship that they've had with a lot of the Team Innova people and Innova themselves, but it's good to see that Innova is keeping their players happy.
Yeah, and then in another sense, we did finally get a little confirmation on Simon Lizotte. I think that was some of the biggest news was just released in the last couple of days. Of course, seeing that none other than Boda Brothers. He's officially locked in with Boda Brothers to be on the
Board Game Pro Tour.
Yes.
BGPT.
Yes, which we know sounds like a great place to land.
Yeah.
And so if you can connect yourself with the Boda Brothers, then you're doing good work. So best of luck to Simon in that endeavor. Tonight, we're going to be talking with a couple different company representatives. As I said, in just a few moments, we're going to have our first representative from Lone Star joining us. And then shortly after that, we'll have representation. It depends on what hat he's wearing when he's giving any given answer, rightfully so, because he wears a few of them. So we'll have to grill him accordingly.
He should literally have to change hats.
Yes,
he should have a Ledgestone hat and
we've
a
got
PDGA hat.
The PDGA's board president, Nate Heinold. There's been a lot of talk and chatter, not only from a PDGA perspective, including some of the bids and announcements that we've had recently, but then also what's going on with Ledgestone. I know they're talking about opening up registration and have made some announcements from the event side of things. And then we're going to, a little bit later, check in with none other than Mike Jewell and Steve Rico, who are going to talk to us about the Wintertime Open, which has forever been one of the early season. Some have even said it kind of officially has kicked off the A-tier season. We have some other A-tiers and whatnot, and they're all right in their own glory and excitement. But the Wintertime, one of the longest running events in the world in terms of disc golf. So we're going to be talking to them as well. Yes, also, as we're seeing, the board is lit up. No surprise. People are talking what we saw Robert Burridge also with the announcement with Team Lone Star. I'm just saving all the Lone Star fodder for when we actually get Josh here on the line in just a few moments. So, yeah, pretty crazy. Pretty crazy. As we said, I was thinking we'd roll into 2023. There'd be a couple of announcements or maybe one or two massive announcements of our biggest superstars. And as you said, there's just this kind of slow roll of people giving their updates over the last couple of days.
Correct. We saw Maria Oliva. I believe she signed with Thought Space Athletics
Correct.
as well.
Yes.
So I don't know if that's going to be her only sponsor or her only primary sponsor, if you can really call it that. Traditionally, we've always kind of thought of manufacturers as their primary sponsors because that's where they get a majority of the support. But I believe
ThoughtSpace has their own discs.
They do, correct. But they're a small scale disc manufacturer, subletting their discs from another company.
Yeah.
Which traditionally those type of companies haven't usually been big with sponsorship. ThoughtSpace has really expanded.
Yeah,
that concept.
And obviously Thomas Gilbert being one of the other
Correct.
big names that they have acquired along with a few others. Well, tonight we've got more sponsorship announcements because it feels as if the entire world, including Smashbox, did we just sign?
Well, actually, so I didn't tell you this. I've traded you.
Oh,
you are
perfect.
You are going to the
please. Anywhere but here.
Disc Golf Answer Man.
Okay.
And I traded you for Joe Rogan, so he's coming in here. We're just going to talk conspiracies now.
I'm down with that.
Mind.
Well, and then our primary sponsor, it sounds like they've picked up everyone else on the planet. They're making big moves.
And let me say, they are sponsoring the most important thing of 2023. SkipAce.com.
Oh, in that case.
Yeah, that's right. They are supporters.
That's a big plug. Well, without further ado, we have from Lone Star Discs, Josh Hofstra. Josh, are you there with us?
Hey, Josh.
Hey, how you doing? You're 2 seconds behind if you're watching just on the show. How you doing tonight? Welcome in.
you might be watching the YouTubes.
Are you there with us?
I am here with you.
Okay, there you go.
You guys, though.
You're gonna want to turn off the YouTubes.
I can hear you on my phone, but I can't see you on the screen.
Yeah, you definitely are gonna want to lose the YouTube's version and reconnect with us on your vMix only.
I'm doing great. Sorry.
You're gonna have to refresh your
Yeah,
browser.
let me dial it back. Give it 1 second.
Hold on. All right, we'll bring him back on. It's funny. We had him ready. He's been on for about 15 minutes waiting in the
In the green room.
In the green room, and then we get this. How funny is that?
We'll get him back here in a second here, because we double checked, of course, that everything was working and ready to go, because that's what we do.
As soon as I see him,
If there's one thing that we're good with, it's preparation.
Listen,
We usually nail it.
we the first time, always always with the first time. All right, Josh, give me a thumbs up if you can hear me. Just wait.
All right.
1 second.
We're getting the 1 second.
I think he's switching cameras actually now.
Yeah, we'll make it all work here in a second. We got to make sure we do this right. And we'll get him to join.
Oh, we did see Daddy Disc Golf in our chat room says that we saw Brody doing a little bit of trolling, saying that he's
or was it
trying
trolling
out a whole bunch of different discs, wondering about sponsors, and
I don't know. That might have been trolling, or it might not have been.
I think it's a little bit of trolling.
Okay.
So, all right.
Josh, are you ready to go? Okay.
All right. We're coming back, Josh.
We had was out the window.
All right, we are all back.
Who needs
Welcome
prep?
in, everyone, from Lone Star Disc. We have Josh Hofstra. Josh, how you doing tonight?
Doing fantastic. A little last minute, but we're here.
Again, in full disclosure, because this is how we roll, I reached out to Josh very late in the day. I said, is there somebody that would be interested in joining us from Lone Star? You guys are just pushing all of the headlines forward here with all these big signings, and you graciously said yes, you would jump on. So I as always, will take any last minute blame here. So you're good. Thank you for joining us. Now let's. I will just be totally blunt that, last year we largely saw representation from Leah Sinigini and Chandler Kramer, who both have made their impact immediately in that they're fresh players coming into the sport. Leah, of course, has a tie to the PDGA, but then just has her ultimate and this incredible spirit on the course. And then Chandler Kramer has all of his own personality in a very different way. This seemingly exclusive forehand throwing, huge showing international. And then, so that was all of 2022, I feel like, mostly. And then, one of the biggest signings that we talk about is Nico joining, and then the dominoes have just kept on falling or setting up, I guess, depending on where your optimism is. Talk to us about Lone Star acquiring all of these players. Let's start there.
Yeah, so the biggest thing for us in 2023 that we wanted was we knew we had great success. Chandler was somebody that we actually met with out in Austin at a local A-tier. I'm not sure if it's A-tier, B-tier, but he was out there playing in Austin, and we ran into him, and he's like, hey, I'm looking to go on the tour next year. And so he swung by. We had great conversation, got him on. This was before the hair change. The hair change was a little last minute going into the season, so he wanted to have a breakout season, decided to change the hair color. We're all for it.
Well, we just saw he change it again. He's going green for the year. I saw that on his socials.
Blue.
Was it blue? I thought it was like a neon. Did he?
That's what it used to be.
It's like your background. Yeah, it's like your background.
Really? Okay, so maybe I saw
super bright blue.
Oh, geez. All right, maybe I saw the wrong picture then, because I know he just changed it. So, wow.
Yeah.
Right,
so he's going with blue for this hair color. The reveal was posted yesterday.
Nice.
But Leah Sinigini, I can't say enough good things about her. In the pro group chat, we literally have her as the nicest person here.
Mm-hmm.
That's her nickname inside of the pro chat. Leah is a huge ambassador for the sport. As you guys know, she serves on the board. And overall, amazing human being. We're looking forward to having all of the fleet of pros that we've acquired over the past couple weeks here joining us next week for a pro team building week. So we're going to be doing some filming, some in the bags. And we actually have one more FPO signing that's going to be happening tomorrow at 8 a.m. So stay tuned to our Facebook and Instagram for that.
They're about 12 hours late, but okay. Awesome.
Oh,
now let's start with the basics of Lone Star's disc development, and because there's always so many questions: who makes them? Whose idea? Who's designing? Where are they coming from? Let's just start at square one. Give us the story of Lone Star Discs.
Yeah, so the story brand for Lone Star Discs is that Terry Dillard, who is I call him the big boss, right? That's dad. Okay, so Terry Dillard has two sons. That's St. John and Travis Dillard. Both of them came to him during one of the downturns in the oil field and said, "Hey, Dad, we're already doing all this molding. We've been doing it for decades. We have tons of experience. Can we utilize one of these machines and make our own disc?" And Terry reluctantly said, "Yeah, go ahead." So they ended up making their first disc, which was end up becoming the Mockingbird, which is super cool. And from there, it took off. They spent about a year making a couple other molds. I call those the OG molds. That's your MIDI, your Mad Cat, Penny Putter, all named after different family members of the Dillards, which is super cool. And then what ended up happening is Terry got involved in disc golf. And so Terry then started playing, which is where we got discs like the Dome, the Tumbleweed, a lot of the easier to throw stuff. As Terry was learning how to play, he transitioned into that role and said, okay, I've already created a lot of these molds, right? We call Terry the creator. He's the one that comes up with all the designs himself. Very cool stuff. So the reason why we're able to release, I think we did 21 or 22 molds last year, and in such a short amount of time, is Terry already has all that experience creating these designs. So he just transferred his knowledge from the CAD designs over to the disc golf world, and that's how we're able to make all these molds so quickly.
So, which is incredible because, first of all, a lot of companies will say 2, 3, 5 molds might be a really busy year. And so the fact that you guys had 21 in a year, not only does that
when
say
Terry wants something,
yeah, he gets it. So not only does that say something about the just the overall design process and trying to dial that in or getting it dialed in, that says something about resources. The fact that molds are typically expensive. Do you guys go the standard molding route when it comes to getting them built, or is there a quicker, more efficient way to do it that sometimes is less expensive?
Right, so we actually do it our own way, which is there's a number of reasons why our molds fly a certain way, and it's because we do them all in-house. We don't outsource to anybody. We don't do the industry standard in everything, right? Our plastic isn't the industry standard. Our molds aren't the industry standard. Doing it ourselves isn't really the industry standard. You see a lot of new companies coming out underneath a big parent company that can supply them with the discs. You know, they basically come up with, I want this disc to fly this way. We're going to call it this name, and then they release it. Whereas we chose, hey, we want to kind of blaze our own trail, and we want to be separate from everybody else. And since there are no disc golf manufacturers in Texas, how cool would it be to be the only Texas disc golf manufacturer that makes their own discs? So that's what we ran with.
And at this point, and I'm sure there's a million different ways that you guys are getting pulled and you're just getting off the ground. At this point, are you molding and producing any discs for any other companies? And whether you are or not, is that something you guys are open to in the future? I guess it's a two-parter.
So one of the big things is we've been producing for Hooligan Discs. You might know the Yeet. You commented on it. People were loving the Yeet, loving that Terry Miller's talking about the Yeet all the time, right?
Yep. They've made me famous.
Right? So, we provide Hooligan discs to them, so they have their disc molded through us.
Okay.
And then we're also going to be releasing a line of discs with Nico LaCastro called Sacred Discs. That'll be his lineup. And then we also have big plans to work with another company that is in the state of Texas to produce some of their molds this coming year.
I have some guesses. Okay. I want to go back to Terry for a moment on the, we'll say not just the resources, but the knowledge. Mold injecting. I can't say enough about obviously all the different things that obviously can be learned, but then disc and flight. Did he have any experience with aerodynamics, with things of that nature? Because I think of somebody designing, I always use, a shampoo bottle versus a disc. Like they're just so, worlds apart, and the finite structure of them. Where's his experience, if any, in aerodynamics?
Yeah, so as far as I know, he doesn't have any experience in aerodynamics.
Okay.
The Terry that I know has been doing oil field products for the past 20 plus years. And so when it came to discs, he just kind of broke it down to a measurement level. You just go, okay, I know that this disc flies over stable and this one flies understable. Why do they do that? And we took a look at the discs, and the reason why a lot of our molds look and feel different than anything else out there is because we literally designed it ourselves. So when we went through and we said, for example, the Warbird, the Tombstone, the Warbird, and the Tumbleweed are all attempts to make a Warbird. So when we made our first version of the Warbird, we went, oh my gosh, this is too understable. We said, hey, throw this. And it just went, turned over. And we said, oh, hey, look, a new mold, right? And so by trial and error, we were able to go through and fill in those spots in our lineup that maybe we weren't looking to target yet. And it's turned out really well for us. Like I said, the Tumbleweed is one of, if not obviously I work for the company, so I have a personal preference. I think it's one of the best understable distance drivers on the market, if not the best. Goes forever, tons of glide, anyone can throw it. And that all came from trying to make a Warbird. So no complaints there. So yeah, no prior experience. Just trying new things and figuring out what works has been the best way to do it for us.
Now, someone would say, well, let me first ask this question. The Suns, how active were they in playing disc golf? I mean, was this like a passion of theirs?
Yeah.
So they had played for 2 or 4 or 10 years. What was kind of the background there?
Close to 2 decades.
Okay. So they knew disc golf.
Travis has been playing since, I think he said, the early 2000s.
Okay.
They only found out what the PDGA was about 5-6 years ago, I believe.
Okay.
So played a lot with their friends. They'd go out. Oh, I love this disc. Oh, you like that disc? We'll try this one. And so it was really a hobbyist sport for them. And then it wasn't until, like I said, recently where they went, oh, there's a PDGA and we can register for our own PDGA number and we can get a rating. And then it became a competition between friends at a more structured level than it was just going out and having a good time at the course.
Okay. So following that up, someone would say, I love the idea of designing your discs and not necessarily having, for lack of a better term, influence. But clearly there was some influence to have, whether they had a destroyer at one point or a Wraith or a Rival or a PA3. There had to be a little bit of research and or reference point in some of the initial molds or designs, or no, or did he? Essentially just open up CAD and say, let's draw a beveled edge frisbee, because that seems it'd be tough to do that.
Right. So to give you an example, the first disc that they made was a version of the Mockingbird that was like hyper illegal, like would not have passed any standards.
Sure.
It was the flippiest thing on planet Earth, and so they went
probably
in with
super
it going,
sharp.
Hey, yeah, super sharp, super shallow, and we have one of those models sitting up at Lone Star Disc. And so they tried that way first. And, I think in everything in life, you always look to your elders, right? You always look to the people that were there before you. And so we've used, examples of going, hey, like, I want this disc, but I want it to be like a little flippier, or like, what if this disc did this instead? And so I think that's where the trial and error, alongside seeing what's already come before us, worked out in our favor. We had 2 options to look at instead of just kind of like shooting from the hip.
And then when you talk about the plastics, I think I've been blessed to see some of them both in the U.S. and also even international. It feels like a lot of the plastic pellets that go to our disc manufacturers are largely sourced from similar places. It's not really a big secret that, or maybe it is, that Innova may get some of their pellets from the exact same manufacturer where Legacy gets their plastic pellets and Discraft may get some. Now, I'm not saying they all have obviously they don't have all the same blends, but some of those raw materials are literally coming out of the same factories that then go to the different manufacturers. Do you guys have then, or do they have special insights and or some kind of advantages and uniqueness to where any of the sources are supplied, or are those ultimately kind of from the same place, just mixed differently?
Yeah, so that's a fantastic question, and you're right on the nose. So the funny part is you got to see how far the rabbit hole goes, right? So most people stay surface level of like, oh, this disc is just designed this way, and it feels different because yada, yada, yada. Realistically, we've been in plastic injection for a very, very long time, and so we already knew where everybody else was sourcing their plastic from. Our plastic is the highest grade that we can get. It's the same stuff that we use in the oil field. So Terry talks about it all the time. He's, this is 10,000 PSIs, abrasives, blah, blah, blah. Like, again, things that are way above what I know about plastics. And so he goes into detail about that. And that's why our plastic takes so much longer to beat in than any of our other competition. I've got a Bravo curl that I've had for literally a year. And I've hit more trees than anybody else in the world, I promise you. And it flies exactly the same as it did when I got it a year ago. So the higher grade quality plastic that we're using is not an industry standard, and we haven't found a single other manufacturer that is using that standard of plastic.
So can Terry pick up another company's discs and just basically know what the plastic is, the blends? I mean, has he that's all built into 20 years of experience, and he can say, oh yeah, I know what this is. This is kind of this and this level. It's a whatever plastic levels they make. I don't know what the quality. So
yeah, so it's pretty funny. So that's exactly where it comes from. So again, he's the creator for a reason. Mad scientist, creator. He's got many different nicknames. There's a reason why our Victor plastics float in water. It's because he went and did the science to figure out the specific gravity, and then go, oh yeah, it floats in water because it's less dense than water. And you go, okay, we've got that. All right, you know exactly what plastic it's going to be. You know, he's very, very keen, right? He's got a very, very sharp eye. He can pick something up and go, oh yeah, that's just this plastic, that's this, and this. And there's very few people in our industry that have that mind. Someone else that comes to mind is Dave McCormick over at Gateway Discs. That guy is a mad scientist. That guy's always mixing different plastics and trying different things. And so it's super cool to see reflections of our young company in companies that have been doing it for decades already. That makes me have a lot of pride in where I come from.
Talking about the plastics, I'm just going through a rebel because I don't know. We have so many manufacturers these days, and keeping track of plastic qualities and who's best line, I've given up on for the most part. But I'm looking at, for instance, on the website, a Harpoon mid-range material, Alpha, Bravo, V1, V2. Just different plastic blends, or like what's
so Alpha is a stiffer plastic. Yeah, so Alpha is a stiffer plastic. Most people equate it to like a Champion feel. So it's a stiffer plastic. Our Bravo is the same as Alpha, but it's just gummier. Our Glow is very similar to the feel of Bravo. And then Victor 1 and Victor 2 are their own kind of tacky, rubbery blend. If I gave away the industry standard secret, then we wouldn't be able to keep what makes us special. So I can't tell you everything, right? I can't sell the farm, but I can tell you that it's completely different than what everybody else is using.
I know, I totally understand. I just wanted to know if there was, because like I said, every manufacturer has, usually different qualities and price points. I'm looking at the different materials that you have, and on the website at least, they all kind of hit the same price point. So is there a different quality, or as far as the ability to beat in, or is it just literally different types of plastics for people who prefer different tactile feels?
Yeah, so I mean, literally, it's tactile feel. So we've gone back and forth and changed our blend, over the course of the years as people go, oh, I like this Alpha, but it's too much this, or I like the Bravo, but it's too much that. And so what we've got now is a perfect lineup. We like where everything's at right now, right? Our Glow is super bright. The Bravo is just tacky enough and gummy enough. The Alpha is just stiff enough. Victor 1 and Victor 2, people consider those baseline plastics, but I've never felt baseline plastic be as grippy or float in water. So the price point itself is dependent upon not only the material, right? They're all similarly priced, like you said, but also where we source it from. We get it in such bulk because it's the same plastic we use in the oil field side of things that we're able to offer it at that low of a cost. It's super cool.
Immediately when you said something about Glow, I think about the few comparisons, and then, well, should I say the industry leaders that are often then referenced, and I think most would agree, Castoplast and MVP are the two that are generally referenced right away when somebody says, where does the best Glow come from? There's a lot of manufacturers, but those are the two that usually get mentioned first. Do you feel, how's your Glow? Do you feel like it's competitive with those?
So that's the cool part for me, right? So I get to be a little geek nerd about this because I know those are also the industry standard, right? So those guys have really set the bar. I mean, Dynamics' new Glow is also great. Their new Moonshine blend is fantastic. But the cool part for me is I get to sit back and I go, hey, here's a Glow Armadillo. And then I have a guy go out and he goes, oh my God, I compared it to all these other brands and it was, just as bright or lasted longer, or, for me to be compared to, again, companies that have been doing it for tens of years longer than our company has been, we're already hitting the mark, right? We never changed a single thing. We did it our way from the beginning. And so to be compared to these, giants in the industry, we were on Infinite's list last year. So just last year, we were ranked 23rd manufacturer sold on infinitedisc.com. Today, the blog post came out. We are 11th, just behind Latitude 64. who is the European godfather of how many different brands. So I consider that an absolute honor for us. I know we're looking to smash the top 10 next year, and I believe that we can do it if we continue to go the way that we're going.
So if you had to take a guess in 2023, how many new molds are you going to have? If you had 20 plus last year, I mean, some companies will take, now I'm looking at the Jackrabbit, and they'll just call it the Jackrabbit V2. Now,
Right.
I mean, you know exactly where I'm going. So
Yes.
if you modify a mold, are you going to give it is it an entirely new name? Is it just a modified version? Because sometimes those fly completely different. You know, you'll see the Rock and the Rock 3 fly, I mean, significantly different, yet they're both considered rocks. If I had a Jackrabbit and you modified it, are you going to always, and I know always is a tough word because it lasts forever and no one can know infinitely, but is the Jackrabbit mold the Jackrabbit mold forever? And are we going to see a different modified Jackrabbit called something new? I guess that's my question.
Right. So as the director of marketing and business development, Terry and the Dillards, who are all the owners, right? You've got to think anybody with the last name Dillard that's there on the Lone Star Disc side owns the company. They've trusted me to offer guidance, right? And so they go, Josh, how do you feel about this name for this disc? We had this exact conversation come up about the Lone Wolf. We were going to name it something completely different. And then we all decided, you know what? We're always going to come up with fresh names, right? There's always something that we can owe back to, or as a Texas-based theme or something like that. And so as of right now, there are zero plans to name anything an X3 or a V2. Number one, it would look really weird if you go to buy a Jackrabbit V2 in V2 plastic. You'd be like, what's happening? I don't know. So for the marketing side, for me, I can say that we definitely have enough names covered to just create new molds. And a lot of the time, like you said, if you go to modify a Jackrabbit, minor changes to a Jackrabbit are going to make it a completely different disc. You know, we don't do anything where it's like just something small. We also understand who our consumers are because we are the consumers. I brought this up on another, podcast interview where I said, hey, everybody that works there is an amateur, right? We know what it feels like to be an amateur and go, well, there's no difference. This is this disc and this is this disc with a X on the end of it. And you go, okay, so it's slightly more stable, but like, it gets convoluted at some point, right? Mm-hmm. I don't want to be like other companies that have 17 long names for one disc. It's this plastic with this model with this, and it's this overstable, and it just becomes a lot. I'd rather stay true to who we are and market the stuff that we already have. And so for 2023, to go back to your question, we will not be releasing as many molds in 2023 as we did in 2022. We're trying to take a step back from that because we already have a very full lineup. Obviously, we're able to get some very big names that want to come on and throw our plastic. So as molds come out, it will be for their needs. There's nothing right now that's super pressing. We're like, oh my gosh, we got to rush and get a, overstable putter. And you go, we have 3 overstable putters. We're not worried in that department, right?
I'm going to throw you one more softball question here. One of the big things as an amateur, obviously, we all look at discs and go, how come when I bought this disc a year ago, it flies way different than the same disc I bought this year? How do you guys feel about your consistency in the plastics? I mean, do you feel like a Jackrabbit I buy today is going to be very similar to a Jackrabbit I buy in a year from now?
Yes. No, I think that's the cool part, right? So coming from the oil field side and making thousands and thousands and thousands of parts, they all have to operate at the same efficiency. They all have to operate within the same standard, right? Like, we're talking this big of a standard, right? Every single time. And so we follow that same process with our discs. We go through everything. I've had people that are like, well, I need a flat top this or a this, that, and with discs, obviously it's a little bit harder. Your flight plates are a lot thinner in certain areas, but for the most part, if you get a Warbird today and you get a Warbird a year ago, you're going to have similar, if not the same flight out of your Warbird. It's one mold for every disc. Apologies. It's one mold for every disc. So we don't have the problem like other companies have where we're swapping tops and bottoms and trying to figure out what special run this was. So, we're very, very consistent when it comes to having the same mold and having it be the same as it was when you bought it a year ago.
You say that now until one of your team member says, yeah, I'd love this top with this bottom, but this middle core. And then, but anyway, I guess you'll cross that bridge.
Yes.
So speaking of not only just all the molds, but quantities and production, how many machines? Well, there's a two-parter again. How many machines do you have, and are they similar or the same machines that we typically see at the other disc golf manufacturers?
Yeah, so it's funny. Again, I'm a consumer as well, right? I am also an amateur, and so I love watching other people's content too. And so being able to see what other companies are using because they're posting videos of their factories, right? And I go, oh, they're using this machine. Well, we're using that machine, or we're using like a similar. Terry with his background of doing it for so long is like, oh, I could see how that machine would work. So it's all typical plastic injection. It's all plastic molding, right? So there's not a huge difference in the machine. It's more the difference in how the molds are made or how they're done or created or ran. We've got certain manufacturers that have the mothership, right? They've got these big, technical AI constructs that are pulling discs out and doing this and doing that. Everything that we have right now is run by hand. So the employees that we have working at Lone Star Molding are a huge part of why our company is the way it is. Very family-based, very family-centric.
Then maybe that leads to the next question, which is what does Lone Star's expansion look like? I think about all the people needed just to help out your team that continues to grow, but your playing team. But what does the employee base look like in terms of the disc side? I think of an MVP who sounds like they have a similar setup where they were in molding and they had another business, and then the sons came to dad and said, hey, can we try out this disc golf stuff? I mean, so let's start there. What is the overall production team and employee base look like?
Yeah, so we have 6 machines currently at Lone Star Molding, and we balance that with the oil field side and the disc golf side. So at any point in time, we can turn it up or lower it down, or we don't have the same overhead as other companies were like, we got to have, 5 machines, and they're all, we don't have that problem, right? In fact, we don't have a problem producing discs, which is fantastic for us. I use this quote all the time because it blows people's minds. In our second year, right, we're coming up on our first full year, going into our second year of intentional marketing, right? Going out there, making our presence known. We have 6 machines. That is 4 more machines than MVP claims they had in 2020. That, to me, blows my mind because we look at these guys as giants of the industry, and I know MVP has a ton more machines now, right? After the holy shot, envy's through the roof, right? And so it's super cool to see where we're at. The Lone Star Molding side, like I said, still produces oil field products, and then we have the Lone Star disc side. So currently we utilize 3 machines for discs, 3 machines for the oil field side, and then we have our entire shipping area up front, which is a 5-man crew. I believe it's a 5-man crew. And then we recently hired on someone to help me because I was running the team, events, social media, a bunch of background stuff. And so now we've just recently hired Sheldon Jefferson, who is a local TD that's been doing a lot of local minis for us, to run our events and team side, and that's been a godsend. In the past 2 weeks, I've been able to hyper-focus on media push and marketing for our brand, and the amount of feedback that we've seen from the social media algorithms has been insane, especially signing all these new pros. They obviously bring their own fans with them, and I'll say this before we get into the pro question because I know eventually it's going to come. The pros that we've signed are on fire for this company. I didn't have to ask a single one, hey, would you like to join our team? Hey, do you want to just come over here? They all came to me and said, we want to be on Team Lone Star. We love what you guys are doing. We love the family aspect, and I want to be a part of something bigger than myself. So that was huge for me, especially finding new pros out there.
Well, then the immediate follow-up to that, I was going to go elsewhere, but right now we'll just segue into, as I said, Nico LaCastro was your next biggest signing after you had Leah and Chandler, who were the face of your player base. I would say you had Nico. That I'm sure was met with some criticism, some excitement from the fan and player base, but also some criticism. What was it about Nico? How did that come about? And because we've seen Nico with a number of manufacturers, and even as recently as last year, connected with a couple of them that he's parted ways with, and he admitted to having a rough year. But what was that reaction and how he fits into your the scheme for your entire company?
Yeah, so Nico walked up to us. We were at Belton, so the Open at Belton.
Mm.
And that's actually where we met a lot of our pros. Emerson had kind of walked over the booth and was kind of doing like a little shark thing where he like comes and then like walks away and then he comes back and walks away. And I'm like, all right, come on. And so Nico walked up to the booth after one of the nephews, so the grandson that the BB6 is named after, saw Nico and was, Mr. Nico, Mr. Nico. And so Nico came over and he's feeling on the plastic and he's like, this feels really good. And I was like, thanks, man. You know, I've been a Nico fan. So I'm a COVID disc golfer. You know, I'm relatively new to the sport. And watching Nico play for these other companies, I always knew that Nico was the most passionate person when it came to the sport of disc golf, right? He's always out there. He's always trying to promote it. He's always trying to bring it to the next level, right? And so having the ability to talk with him and see his passion behind it, I knew that eventually if I had the opportunity to work with him, that's something that we wanted to pursue. And so we had been talking to him. We let him take, you know, a box of discs. At the time, he was doing open bag. And so we let him take a box of discs to try out. And then over time, he was really liking it. And he actually sent us an email right before the European Open basically going, hey, I've tried the discs out. I really like them. You know, let's get together and let's talk. And so after the European Open, obviously we all know what happened. He had reached back out and we basically reached out and said, hey, like, let's take it slow. Let's see how these things go. And through talking with him, again, he sought a lot of help. He had a really rough year last year after that. You know, puts people in a dark spot. Being in the spotlight and having something negative happen obviously causes you to curl back a little bit, right? And so talking with him one-on-one, we figured out that a lot of what he needed was direction. He needed somebody to kind of go, hey, like, here's where our focus is going to be, and we're going to attack this one spot and then move on to the next thing. Nico, by far, and I've talked with a lot of people about this, has the most ideas out of any disc golfer that I've met about improving the sport of disc golf. And so the way that I come alongside Nico is I go, hey, I'm your friend in this. Let me help organize these thoughts that you have to keep us on a straight path so that we don't have any, you know, chaos, essentially. You don't go, I've got 10 ideas that I want to all get done at once. I'm going, all right, Nico, let's hyper focus on this and get it done. And so he's been extremely on board with, you know, working with us. He's already been donating to schools and wanting to do giveaways and really just give back to the community and show that he wants to be here. He wants to be a legend of the sport. So very happy to have him on board for sure.
It makes perfect sense. And I couldn't agree with you more. I have spent, I was going to say, time on a ferry with Nico where we were getting onto Nantucket Island. I've spent time in other countries with him. He had, I distinctly remember talking to him at a Ledgestone event many years ago before Ledgestone was the size it was at a meet and greet pizza place. And we had, he's never been short of passion and ideas, and he said that through and through. And I think it is a matter of finding that right place where he's most comfortable and somebody that can, I'll say, kind of keep up with him because he's got so many things that he's, you know, so many irons in the fire that he'd like to pursue. And so this very well looks like it could be the answer for him. So then, you know, you mentioned that, you know, other people were coming to you. Did you guys have a number or a goal in mind of people, quantity, or individuals,
or even a budget,
or and a budget? Did you have a goal in mind of a sponsored team? Because
I mean, you went. I don't want to say two because I'm sure you had more, but two
essentially
touring players. To I don't even know
to
how
202.
We're not even going to talk about we'll get to the Ranger team in a second, but talking about like the number of players, how do you go to the bosses and be like, cool, you know that touring budget we had, tenfold, you know what does that look like?
So it's kind of funny. Again, it's all I use the term all the time in my posts on Facebook where I say blessed and highly favored. Right? There's no reason why I should be in the position I'm in, with given the opportunity and the abilities that I have, besides hard work and all the other things we've done, right? And that's the same thing that can be said for the amount of pros we did not expect. Pros to be coming to us and going, I would love to play for your brand. I would love to be on your team. And through all the effort that we've put through this year, I mean, maybe it could have been the fact that Terry drove his G-Wagon to the Open at Belton and parked next to the booth. That might have been part of it. But no, we honestly, when we set out for 2023, we only planned on having a handful of pros. I mean, we were always going to run it back with Chandler. We were always going to run it back with Leah. They're amazing individuals, and they've been with us since the beginning. Tanner Gerard, obviously another amazing individual. He's our team captain. He's been with us for 3 years. And he's the one that actually brought us Leah. Leah came through Tanner. Tanner was like, "Hey man, Leah's awesome, and you're gonna love Leah, and she's on the board, and blah blah blah." I was like, "Great." Met Leah, ball of joy, right? All these other pros we were not expecting, and so it was almost a snowball effect. So we'd obviously been talking with Nico for a while, but as soon as it got to be about August, we had a lot of pros reaching out. A lot of, if my cell phone could talk, all the text messages and calls that I received from pros from other companies that I've been watching for however long, going, "Hey, I love the family vibe that you guys have. I would love an opportunity to come play for y'all." We were in talks with several big names to come and play for us. And at that point, yeah, it was a budget thing where you go, "Hey, that's great that you want this amount of money. We can't see that value, but we know that you are a valuable person." And so unfortunately we had to pass on those people. And so what's been really cool is the ability to structure our team in a way that benefits the player and us so that we can both move forward having a great deal, right? I think that the industry right now is getting to the point where people are, it's gotten to the point where everybody looks at the money figure, right? So you look at the Ricky deal. Everybody goes, $4 million, 4 years. Oh my gosh, I deserve that. And you go, this Ricky Wysocki. It's
you can just flat out say, "No, you don't."
Right.
There's like two or three people in the world that deserve that. You're not one of them.
Yes, and in my heart, right? In my heart, everyone deserves that. I want everybody to have $1 million.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Write my check.
I deserve that too.
Right. Yeah, you also deserve it. I'm talking to you, 860 rated player. That's me. So, anyways, people came to us and we were basically like, "Hey, we would love to have you on the team. Like, what makes sense for you in this deal?" And so, carefully structuring all of these deals to make so that the players felt that their needs were met and that we felt like we were getting value out of it. Again, I don't want anyone on my team that isn't on fire for my company, because I can spend $10 million a year on a guy, but if he doesn't have a social media presence, if he doesn't like my product, if he doesn't care about my Ranger team, right? What's the point in having them? I think there's a huge value in community when it comes to building a team. And so a lot of these multi-year, multi-figure, you're like, that's great. They play with your name on your back, but how much do they actually care about your brand at the end of the day? That's the big part for us over at Lone Star.
And so with that being said, first of all, when it comes to, and maybe you just answered this by saying that, are all of the signed or sponsored players, are they all 1-year deals? Is that how you guys are structuring your initial sponsorships?
Yeah, so we do it a little different than industry standard, like in everything we do, right? So they're all 1-year deals, but we make it so that next year when they go to talk with us, we want them to get a good deal too. Again, I wish I could tell you guys all the people that we talked to where it was just hey, like,
I mean, you can
just start talking.
We're on a podcast.
You're doing it already. Nobody's watching.
Nobody's going to stop you from
Nobody's
saying.
going to know.
I'm a fantastic talker, but I'm an even better secret keeper. So some of the people would come to us and we'd go, "Hey, like, this is what we're offering." And they're like, "Oh my gosh, that's 3 times, 4 times what I got offered to play for last year." And you go, "Yeah, like, we believe in you and we know that you believe in the company." And then they come back to us and they go, "Hey, I just feel like I'm going to get a better deal over here." And we go, "That's fantastic. Like, we're happy for you. Like, we're pro team disc golf at the end of the day, right? We are Lone Star Disc, but at the end of the day, we care about the sport of disc golf. That's what's important to us." And so if pros can get better deals somewhere else and they feel like they're better served somewhere else, then go for it, right? We want to support everybody on this journey that we're all on, right? If it wasn't for the sport of disc golf, none of us would be here. And so that was a huge part for us. Again, I didn't want anybody that wasn't on fire for the company and didn't believe in our product. So at the end of the day, that's what it boiled down to. 1-year deals, yes. And then if they want to re-up next year, we can absolutely negotiate and re-up next year, because you never know. They could be worth more money. They go, "I don't want this part of my deal. I want to structure it this way. I got a dog this year. Now I need a dog food allowance," right? Like, there's so many things that change, especially on tour. We wanted to leave that liquid for the pros so they feel like they're a part of something bigger than themselves.
Yeah, so that will segue right into the sponsorship agreements. Of course, we've seen a huge variety in, like you just referenced, in terms of money that can be offered. We've also seen quite a difference in terms of what is or isn't known or public. And then another piece of the puzzle is just the overall structuring. Prodigy had their philosophy when they came out in 2013 that pushed the sport in a certain direction for a little while, and also just overall, I think, got more money to more players. And now, as of late, it feels as if, whether it's a signature or a tour series or however we want to define those, every company has their slightly different version, or a limited run or whatever, special release disc. What is kind of the core elements to your sponsorship offerings when you think about registration fees, reimbursements, bonuses, signature discs, one-off discs, consignment, whatever it is? What are some of the kind of core components to your sponsorships?
Yeah, so I mean, let's start from the very tippity top. Touring pros. Everybody needs to go on tour that can make it on tour, and so everybody knows you get a tour card, right? You have to be a certain rating to get a tour card, to unlock that, to do this, to do that, blah blah blah, right? So basically, you've leveled up to a point that you can now afford to do these things, and so we try to take care of those players. When they're going out on the full tour, they obviously require a lot more attention to detail when it comes to registering for events. Salaries for being able to afford to go on the road. You're talking food, hotels, all that stuff. And so for the touring pros, those guys get signature discs. I mean, they need it. They've got fans. Again, you're on fire for my company. You believe in my plastic. Let's support each other here. As far as I know, we give quite a bit to our touring pros off of the price of the discs compared to other companies from what we've been told. Which is fantastic because, again, if the plastic is flying off the shelves and it's because of you, let me reward you. Like, I'm honoring you for all the work that you've done for me and my company. And then on top of that, salaries. I mean, all the touring pros have a salary to go out there. They've got something to start with, right? Even if it's a small amount of money and they want a bunch of discs or vice versa. There are some hustlers out there, man. There's some people that are just like, I just want all the discs. You're like, okay,
yeah,
sure. Like, I guess if that's how you want to, make your money, great. But for the most part, touring pros, it's covering their allowances, allowing them to go out, have a signature disc or a signature run of discs, and then making it so that, again, very family-based, very team-centric. When we go out of town, if we're going to, let's call, Music City Open, right? We're going to Music City Open and we're getting hotels. Hey, if you guys are going to be at Music City Open, you can stay in our hotels with us. Like, we try to go out of our way and take care of our pros like it's a family. Because that's who we are and that's who,
I love it.
I was going to do Tommy Boy line, but it's fine.
Sometimes, and again, this goes back to the conversations with various pros about feeling like they're either held back and or whether it's a production issue or whether it's some form of a cap of, hey, if you sell this amount of discs, that's great, but here's essentially all we're providing or all we're making for you. Do you feel like you're structured in a way that, we'll say, for lack of a better term, like the earnings are endless or unlimited, so to speak? If Nico LaCastro sells 2,000 Jackrabbits or 50,000, he's got unlimited potential?
Yeah, I mean, that's the big thing. I never want to hold somebody up. It's kind of like we were talking about, where if somebody gets a better deal and they're like, oh, I'm like, go for the deal. Like, if my cell phone could talk, the amount of people that we've gone, hey, the deal actually makes more sense. You're unlimited through us. There's no cap. You don't have to sell this many of this before you get this, right? There's no X plus Y equals Z. It's you get this and you can get this as much as you want, right? We really try to take care of our pros and go, if you want to be proactive, play on words, proactive. If you want to be proactive and go out there and get it, right? You're out there selling on tour. You're out there doing what you want. One of my favorite hustlers is Tanner Gerard, our team captain. He goes out there, and that dude, no matter where he's at, the hotel parking lot, the pizza buffet, whatever, he's got his trunk wide open. He's going, I got discs. I got special runs of discs. I got these cheeseburgers, man. He's out there selling it, right, getting it, and he utilizes that to the best of his ability. We would never want to handicap him in that way. So each of the pros has all the opportunity in the world to make as much money as possible through us.
Okay, well, let's we're gonna take a sidestep because there seems to be plenty of commotion, is lack of a better term, on the board, and I'm genuinely not reading it word for word, but the Ranger team seems to be a hot topic of conversation. Again, I do not know of the details. So maybe explain what it is, and then whether worked up or otherwise. Just Tulsa, thank you for jumping in on a massive super chat. Thank you.
Thank you, buddy.
Oh yeah.
Hello. So explain to us, please, the Ranger team. What does it mean? How does it differ with an underground or a street team or some of the other teams? I'm assuming it's somewhat in that general vein.
Yeah, so again, the best part about all this is we've been able to see who's come before us and how they've done things, and we're able to do it how we want to do it. So the Ranger team is a group of amateur individuals just like us. We started the Ranger team last year, and I believe we had over 150 members all over the United States. And this year we opened up applications, and we said, hey, if you want to be a part of the Ranger team, these guys were the ones out there killing it, right? They're out there promoting the brand, on social media. We do team invitationals, we do get-togethers. Like, I'm always on our team page popping in and, hey, is this person coming? And I'll drop like one of these emojis, and then we're all having a good time, right? And so the Ranger team is literally groups of individuals. Again, if you want to be on fire for my company and you're an amateur player and you want to go out there and you want to support the brand and who we represent, I would love to have you on my team. Come sit at my table. You can come over here. We'll get you some discs. We'll get you some apparel. Like, if you want to be a part of this family that we're creating, this, it's not a club, right? Everybody has each other's backs. We have a team invitational coming up next week, and people are like, we're hopping in a minivan, and there's 6 of us that are coming down for the weekend. Like, we're getting a hotel together. It's super cool to see the camaraderie come out of having such a large amateur team. It's not like other teams that I've seen or been a part of where it's like, well, you have to hit this goal and we're going to dangle this carrot or we're going to do this. We really go out of our way to make sure that everybody feels like they're a part of something bigger than themselves.
Okay. I think about, like you just said, there's so many different versions of these teams. Some of them are aspiring to then work their way up, from one section of the team onto the next. And some truly know they won't get there. They're just a really big fan or supporter, and then love having an official or unofficial or semi-official, whatever you want to call it, tied to the company in a greater good, in a bigger way. And I can totally understand that as well. And I feel like every one of the companies at some capacity has something, and they all kind of scratch a different itch.
Right.
Yeah, scratch a different itch. Yeah, so I don't know. It may or may not be for everyone or everything, but yeah, I can understand how that makes sense. What would you say is the number one? I'll just use the term goal. What is the number one goal that if we caught up 365 days from now, you'd be like, heck yeah, Lone Star did this, and this is what we're super proud of. What would be, if you could think of one or two, what would those be, that you accomplish in 2023?
Well, we definitely want to see a lot of positive change. I know it sounds super, oh, here's my bleeding heart, right? But we do want to see a lot of positive change. I mean, our juniors and our women and all of those kind of underserved areas in disc golf that need attention, we're trying to push into, right? We're trying to kind of help those sections. Hey, here's a juniors tournament. You don't have to be 18 years old and have a license to drive 30 miles to get to this tournament, right? We're trying to promote a better tomorrow for the sport of disc golf that everyone can be a part of. We want to be inclusive in that aspect. And so if we can, as a company, get together and run these events and support these local communities, that's a huge thing for us. The selfish thing for us is on that infinite disc list. We want to be within the top 10 manufacturers. And so it's funny because I get a kick out of going to work, right? We'll sit there and we'll talk all day about, all right, we got to do this, and this. And I mean, it's like, where do they do all the trading at in New York?
Stock
Wall
Exchange?
Street.
Yeah, Wall Street.
Yeah,
New York Stock Exchange.
Our office looks like Wall Street. There's, all right, did you do this? Did you email this guy? Okay, all right. And we're just going back and forth. And then we'll all stop and it's like, hey, we need to run like a juniors tournament. And you're like, yeah, like we should definitely do a juniors tournament. Okay, let's do it for this day and for that day. And so like, it's cool to see that in the hustle and bustle and everything of trying to be a bigger, better company and kind of spread the Lone Star name through the sport of disc golf, that we're also taking time to think about what's really important and what matters. And that's the people of disc golf. That's the amateurs, the juniors, the women's divisions. All that stuff is super important to us as a company.
I'm just curious, how big is the disc golf portion compared to the oil production portion of the company? Is it like 10 to 1, 1,000 to 1? Just like
Right.
if you can share that, I don't know. Like what is
Yeah, so I'd say we have 40 plus employees that work on the molding side, and then on the disc golf side, we have like 10. So it's like a 4-to-1 mix right now. Surprisingly enough, again, the sport of disc golf is the biggest, smallest group of individuals I've ever been a part of. I come from the automotive world, which has hundreds of thousands to millions of people that are fans of the automotive world and the automotive community. And I was Josh Hofstra in the automotive world, right? The same interviews we're doing here, I was doing with people over there. But then I come to disc golf and I'm doing these interviews and I'm working for a company like Lone Star that's only been seriously doing this for less than 2 years. And it's like, everybody knows your name and everything's this big thing. And so it's funny when people come to our facility and they visit the pro shop and they go, wow, I thought this would be like 10 times bigger. And you're like, it's disc golf hasn't gotten to that point yet where it's, you show up to the Budweiser factory and it's this big assembly line of whatever and you walk over. So not everybody has that yet. And you can be competitive as a manufacturer. And honestly, I would love to see us in the top 5 actual manufacturers, right? So the guys who are out there making the plastic for other brands, I would love to see us in top 5, top 4 next year. That would be a huge thing for us.
What would you say, and maybe this kind of just touched on it, but what would you say is the biggest inaccuracy, the most it doesn't have to be egregious, I suppose, but the biggest misconception or inaccuracy, I'm sure you read them daily. Again, they're all over the place in terms of some truth to no truth, to just absolutely bonkers. What's the biggest the biggest clarification you'd love to make or tell us about with regards to Lone Star, if any?
Weight is the biggest one that I hear the most often, that in my mind I just go, 1 or 2 grams, it is not going to change a disc, guys. I hate to tell you this, but I'm in my head, I'm the same way. I go, oh, my discs, they got to be 173. Just makes my mind happy. I just like my 173 discs, right? But realistically, a 174, a 173, and a 172, there's going to be little to no difference in change of flight. I have thrown a Lima Walker that's 149 grams, and I've thrown a Bravo Walker that was overweight. It was 182 grams. And I can tell you, they fly just as overstable as each other. Obviously, weight and wind and other factors plays. If I'm in a wind tunnel and there's no wind, and I throw 2 discs, and they're the same weight, and I put the same rotation with the same amount of snap, they're going to fly the same exact way. The reason why we can throw lighter discs farther or do that is because we can over-rotate them, right? There's some science behind that, blah, 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 blah. I won't get into it, but weight is not as huge of a factor as you think it is when it comes to choosing a disc for you.
I was going to say, what is the most popular Lone Star disc?
Currently, if you look at our website, it would be the Armadillo, which is hilarious because it was a disc that we were never intending to make. One day I came into work and was like, I love one-speed discs, and I showed one to St. John, who he's vice president and does graphic design for us. And St. John picks it up, and he's like, he's looking at a couple different one-speeds, and he's like, are they all like this? And I was like, they're just fun. They're just little pot lids. You just pop it out there. And we sat down, and we ended up making the Armadillo. And it's become a huge staple for our brand that everyone can throw a one-speed, right? It's a one-speed disc, so everyone can throw it. And it's a ton of fun. The artwork looks great. And then the second highest selling one right now for us is the Ranger. The Ranger is the perfect happy little accident. We were trying to make the Walker and made the Ranger by accident and accidentally made what is in regards to, and again, there's going to be some flack on this, the best mid-range we've ever thrown. The Ranger is turn, it is stable, it is everything that you want it to be. If I had to do a 1-disc challenge with 1 disc, I would take a Ranger over any other disc from any other manufacturer.
How many names do you have lined up right now? Like on your board, on your whiteboard in your office, you've got to have like a list of names because you said Walker and Ranger, and all I kept thinking is Walker Texas Ranger and all the different Texas things you've got. And do you have a theme? Putters are this, mid-range, or is it just all Texas related?
So here we go. All right.
All right. Yeah,
Pull up
sit
my
down.
podium. So we had the original 8 or 9 OG molds, is what I call them. So you're talking penny putter, curl, buoy, harpoon. These are all named after either, hey, that sounds cool. We like harpoons. Great. It's cool looking, right? Or they're named after, like the curl is named after one of the granddaughters has very long curly hair. And so they named the curl after her hair. BB6 is named after the initials and the baseball number of one of the grandsons. And so those OG molds, to me, I want to keep a precedence of in the future, right? We'll do something special for those. They brought me on board. They said, hey, let's start doing some intentional marketing. Let's get some marketing direction. I said, great. Only company that makes their discs in Texas, we should probably do a little bit of Texas theme. So the Jackrabbit, the Armadillo. Jackrabbit was the first disc that we came in that they asked me, and they said, what should we do for name? And we all agreed, Jackrabbit. It's named after, it's the middle name of one of the granddaughters, Jacqueline. But Jackrabbit is West Texas, blah, 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 blah. So we did Texas theme for a while, and then Terry said, you know what, guys? I'm getting pretty tired of this Texas theme. I'm going to name this disc the Texas Ranger. And I said, why are we naming the Texas Ranger? And he said, I'm going to make an oversale version and call it the Walker. So we'll have the Walker Texas Ranger. So it's still Texas themed, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm sure the artist stamp will be like a pair of cowboy boots or something, right? And then we did Lone Wolf for Lone Wolf McQuaid, which was another Chuck Norris movie. And so the Chuck Norris line is right there. That's our mid-ranges, right?
Is that true? So are all your mid-ranges going to be Chuck Norris themed?
They were. So the MIDI is not. The MIDI was one of the OG ones. And so we have the Lone Wolf. So we did what I call as families of discs. So the way that they feel is you know that a Lone Wolf is the understable version of the Ranger, and the Walker is the overstable version of the Ranger, because they're in the same field, the same family, right? They all have a bead on the bottom. They all have the same wing shape, right? But they fly different. And so that grouping of discs that we made, that family, is all like Chuck Norris themed. So again, we like to have fun over here. There's no matter of thing that is off limits. We have some new discs that are going to be releasing. They just got announced on the PDGA that they were approved, which is the Seguin and the Frio, which are named after rivers in Texas. So is the Guadalupe. That's not after the Guadalupe, the mother, whatever, blah, 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 the Bathtub Mary Guadalupe. It's named after the river and the Guadalupe bass that is only found in the river. So yeah, we kind of have fun. There's no middle ground that we don't stop at.
Wow, I've got two more to that. Is one, someone like myself, and this is totally selfish, just to be very clear on the internet here. I of course sell discs. I run a lot of tournaments, so on and so forth. Someone like myself, do I go to your website, send you an email in hopes of becoming a dealer for your discs? What are some of the parameters? Because now, as the sport continues to grow, we've seen some very successful things in my 30 years and some not so successful approaches. What does it look like for you guys onboarding new shops, dealers, wholesalers, all of that?
Yeah, so if you email info@lonesstardiscs.com, we do require, there's a minimum disc order that you do have to fill. But you can email info@lonesstardiscs.com, and as long as you have a tax ID and you can sell discs and have your place of business, we always invite those people to come on board and sign up through us. You can also get our discs at wholesale through Discs Unlimited and InfiniteDiscs.com. Both of those guys are awesome. They treat us so great, and they do a lot of distribution for us because those guys got a lot of stores.
Yeah. Well, I
go through and yeah.
The first time I did get on board and bought some Lone Star discs, I was already making an order through Infinite, through the wholesale, and then I was like, oh, they're here. That makes sense. Let's just order some Lone Star stuff as well. So that was my initial, and now continuing to see you guys grow and expand and have this overall, I don't want to just say acceptance. I don't think that's the word. Just the progress and everything else that you guys have had. Yeah, it's been really exciting to see. So I'm gonna go back just as somebody else did in the board. I want to go back. You answered a great misconception about disc golf. What I meant was, and I wasn't probably clear. What would be the number one misconception about Lone Star? If somebody that you read on the internet and you're just like, oh God, that's so wrong again. Is there anything that you open floor, so to speak, to clear the air. But is there anything, major or minor, that's like, no, this is just dead wrong? People can stop saying this or typing it or screaming it.
So the cool part about being somebody who doesn't play by the book is that there's a lot of rumors that come out, right? And so we make our own discs. So at one point, I got into an internet struggle, right? Where someone was like, your guys' discs are made in Kansas. You guys don't even make them in-house. How are you going to... And I was like, listen. So I went through our facility and I said, Texas, 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 Texas. And I'm showing this building right here. You could Google Earth it. It's right here in Texas.
Look, there's a Torchy's Tacos right there.
There's a Buc-ee's too. Yeah, we're in
it's
Texas,
2 miles down
it.
the road. I'll go get some Torchy's and bring it back to the facility to prove it to you. And so I think that's the funniest. And again, our marketing is intentional. We literally tell you, Texas made, Texas proud is our slogan. And then when people go, these guys aren't even made in Texas, MVP makes them, or these guys make them, I'm like, what are you guys doing? Like, we're literally close to doing a virtual shop tour. I can't express enough. Your shipping label comes from Conroe, Texas. And so, yes, we do make our own plastic. We do everything in-house from start to finish. We get the pellets in, we mold it ourselves, we create the molds ourselves, it goes to the back, we stamp it ourselves, and it ships from the same facility. It's all the same building, it's all the same facility. So that is the most common misconception.
Okay. And I mean, I think that was one of the early things we talked about, even in opening the interview, is that a lot of companies, due to just a restriction of resources, manpower, money, all of those things, understandably go get their disc made by, whether it's another disc golf manufacturer, or it could just be another injection molder that is getting things going for them. And some of them graduate, if that's what you want to call it. Some of them evolve or graduate into doing their own molding, and some don't. And everyone's on their own path. But it is a great distinction to make. Yeah, exactly. That's my point. Yeah. But it's a great distinction to make that, no, you guys are in control, in charge, and you are literally making your own disc. My only thought to that is, you said earlier that 3 machines are running discs. Clearly, if you guys are going to continue on this path of success with these players, not only are those going to have to continue to be probably 24/7, but you may need to double or triple your machines. I mean, I know how many discs those things shoot out or produce, and clearly your demand is going to continue to rise, which means you guys are going to need more machines.
Oh yeah, so as time goes on, we've already got a full. Trust me, the plans. I am the reason why I survive at such a. I mean, again, oil field is not easy, right? And so the day-to-day process can be grueling of trying to get parts on time or delivered or whatever. So they understand deadlines, they understand delivering product within a timely manner, and so the reason why I fit in so well with the Dillards, who are their own family, and they trust me to do this, is because I'm also a 5 to 10 year guy, right? I'm already looking at what's Lone Star going to do in 5 to 10 years, and we're all in the same mindset. We're all going, okay, so we're going to get a couple more machines, we're going to move this, we're going to build out this section, we need some offices here. Like, our big picture is well within reach, and from there, once you reach that step, as you guys know, you just move on to the next one, right? One step at a time. And so added a new machine probably about 2-3 months ago, and we'll probably be adding another machine, and we'll just keep adding and adding and adding and making room for. Again, as demand continues to rise, so must supply, and we have no problem supplying that demand.
Okay. Well,
I saw somebody say your glow is out, so start getting those pumped out.
Yeah, no, so glow is going to be arriving next week. Don't worry about that. So that goes back to the other thing we were talking about with shortages. We haven't experienced the same plastic shortages that the rest of the industry seems to be facing, which is super cool for us, right? Hey, great, our stuff's in stock. And so the cool part about the recent rise is all of our social media, whether it's YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, has all seen a massive increase. I think I looked last week, and we had a 400% increase in Facebook reach. 400% is insane. And so obviously, as we've seen, we go, okay, we have a 400% increase in Facebook reach. We're probably going to do half of that in an increase in sales, right? And so you have to plan for that, which is what we're doing, which is why we're ordering more product. I laugh at that. Your glow's out of stock. Well, it is glow season, and I, as a consumer, also know how cheap I am, and it amazes me how much, support we get from the disc golf community, where you go, we've got 500 glow armadillos back in stock, and they're sold out in 30 minutes. You're like, oh, we'll make 500 more. Like,
Yeah.
it's very easy for us to kind of turn on a dime and go, okay, this is selling and people want this. Again, very blessed to be in the position that we're in, with the community that we have backing us, with the pros that want to come play for us. We could not be in a better position starting 2023.
I want to say thank you selfishly, as Terry got to do his selfish thing, because I know I reached out earlier at the end of the year about Skip Ace doing some fantasy disc golf stuff, working with Lone Star to kind of coordinate some prizes for some of our players. We're going to line it up with the Austin Open, and you guys were, no questions. I worked with you and then with Brittany as well at the Lone Star team, and it was just gung-ho, like, yeah, that's awesome, let's do it. So for me, thank you very much, and I'm excited to be able to work with Lone Star next year from a Skip Ace fantasy disc golf perspective.
Yeah, thank you for your support, man. I appreciate it.
Awesome. Well, we'll give you the floor if there's anything else. We could probably talk for another hour, but right now, for now, that just means we're gonna have to have you and some of your other players, of course, of all of whom we know and love anyway. So that's a no-brainer. But anything else you want to share with us before we let you go here tonight, Josh?
Yeah, check out our Instagram. We're doing a giveaway right now for some Hooligan Disc Yeets. That's Terry Miller's favorite disc, just so everybody knows. So we're giving away 4 Hooligan Disc Yeets. You guys swing by. It's just Lone Star Disc on Instagram. Follow us on Facebook. Follow us on Instagram. We're getting a ton of new subscribers on YouTube for some new content. And as always, we love seeing you guys out there throwing those Lone Star discs.
All right, man. Well, thank you so much. We kept hearing the murmurs of Lone Star and Lone Star, Lone Star, and as you guys being relatively new players on the block, and us not having a personal interaction with you either at a course or at an event or anything of that nature, it was great to have you on. Thank you for answering the myriad of questions that just range from top to bottom, left to right. I think the entire world has that much more of a perspective of where Lone Star came from, where you're going, what you guys are working on, and we're all blessed that you were able to share all of that with us tonight. So thank you so much, Josh. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
All right, we'll talk soon.
Thanks a lot,
Take
Josh.
care. See ya.
All right, sounds good. See ya.
As we just said, Josh Hofstra joining us from Lone Star Disc. Thank you so much. I've said this before, that oftentimes when we have guests on, we've probably known them sometimes for a couple years, sometimes for a few decades, and it's catching up, and sometimes you even know what they're going to talk about and or they're going to say, but we're trying to ask all the right questions for all the right people. Tonight was genuinely a question and answer session that was just as selfishly as much for us as it was for everyone at home, because there has been so many talks about Lone Star. Who are they? What are they doing? How are they going about it? And I hope a lot of that was answered for you guys.
Agreed. Honestly, Lone Star right now feels to me a lot like MVP did 8 years ago, 9 years, whatever that was. When I walked up to you at Valley View and you were telling me about these crazy new discs that you had with the overmold, and they looked really cool, and you were like, yeah, these things sell like hot, like people are so excited for these. And he's like, it's just this company that does this overmold thing. Like, I don't, yeah, I think you even said it to me, like, I don't understand, but hey, they're selling, and that's great. And they had such a, MVP had such a vibe back then. I feel that way with Lone Star right now. Like, there is a real groundswell for this company. And we saw it on the board. There was a lot of the Ranger team out there really promoting. I believe we even, was it, there are a few other Lone Star team members out on the board as well. Nico popped in, and I believe even one of the owners was out there at one point answering some questions. So I really do feel that way, that we've heard this murmur grow into almost a yell at this point for Lone Star. I'm excited to see what they do over the next year or two.
Well, and it's been no secret that, again, our number one mouthpiece that we saw out there was Leah Sinigini, because she was on tour at every single event. I saw her every single weekend when I was out there.
She's not quiet either.
And
she's outspoken.
As you said, just a burst of energy to always be around, and she's working on all of her own good stuff, in addition to, just entering into the scene. Cue up Miley Cyrus's coming in like a wrecking ball. I mean, she's
got herself
out there.
She's got herself a new tattoo as well.
Yeah.
I saw on Instagram. So
Well, I mean, I think that's every week.
is
To
it?
be fair, yeah, but we love seeing her out there, and then she's taking things to another level with being involved from a board perspective as well, and very much running on inclusivity, but also just running on some diversity, with her background and also with her knowledge. And it's great to see. And of course, a very underrepresented group overall being women within our sport. So it's awesome to see. And again, thank you so much to Josh for joining us. One other quick shout out, Just Tulsa, coming in with the hot super chat. I don't know how somebody's going to top that right away here in 2023, but off to a great start. So Just Tulsa logged into the board. We really appreciate it.
A $100 donation.
Heck yeah.
Thank you, Just Tulsa.
Getting some of that.
So Just Tulsa, just so you know, you're invited back next week.
Yes. You have an open invite anytime, every week. All right. And speaking of the PDGA board, and I teased it out there earlier, this is our next guest who wears a ton of different hats. Well, he doesn't often wear a hat, but figuratively
I've never
speaking,
seen him in a hat.
when he does, it's a thing of beauty. So none other than one Nate Heinold is joining us now. Nate, welcome in, buddy. How you doing tonight?
Okay, that's not true. I think I've seen him in a hat.
I am well. I do own some hats, so I have them on my desk even.
Can I get that at the Ledgestone website to purchase?
We have tons of hats. So,
Oh my gosh! I thought
plenty of stuff. So, and it is, I was just going to start the conversation with, it's good to see you, Johnny. I just wanted to say that
Well,
up front. So,
everything's coming up Johnny Day because I want to say tonight we're having our second big sponsor of Skip Ace, Ledgestone. I reached out to Nate a couple weeks ago. I was like, hey, you want? He's like, how many weeks? And I was like, whoa, he's their big guy. No. So thank you again, Nate, for sponsoring Skip Ace this year.
All right.
You're
That
welcome.
sounds like a gamble to me in more ways than one. Anyway, so welcome in again, our PDGA board president, Nate Heinold. But Nate, it's not a secret. You, in fact, have your hands in a lot of disc golf cookie jars, I guess is the way I would word that. You do a lot of different things in addition to still running and owning or co-owning and operating with Ledgestone Insurance. So I guess you tell me, where do we start? Oh, here, you don't get a choice. All right, here's where we start. Just a couple weeks ago, last week, 7 days ago, we had Missy Gannon. Talk about your affiliation to not only Missy and Chandler and your team, but also to charities like St. Jude and the Paul Macbeth Foundation. How do you fit into those?
Yeah, I mean, I have my hands in almost too many cookie jars. I try not to split my focus too much, but I volunteer as the chairman of the Paul Macbeth Foundation. I happen to sponsor Missy and Chandler, and they asked me to go to Uganda, and I just couldn't make it work with my schedule and family stuff and PDJ business that I had to attend to. And so they had the idea to send Missy and Chandler, and they're obviously phenomenal ambassadors for the sport in general. I showed some pictures to my wife from Chandler, with the kids over there, and it was honestly, it makes me say, well, I'm glad that I give to Paul's foundation. I mean, however you feel about Macbeth, and I personally can't stand him. So,
Wow.
Just kidding. Just kidding. So, but he's, just giving to that foundation and seeing what they're doing. And I mean, I believe in spreading disc golf everywhere, and that's the mission of the foundation. And so I think we all want to grow the sport of disc golf, and to see it grow in other countries, is pretty awesome.
Yeah, it is. And, we saw that even before the Paul Macbeth Foundation. Obviously, you were very active with donating to St. Jude and being part of that more at a local level in terms of the Peoria area, writing some of the largest checks disc golf's ever seen to a charitable cause or foundation has been incredible. And I know you guys have even started to spread that out throughout the years. You're not just giving to the the local chapter in terms of St. Jude, but also the Paul Macbeth Foundation, and then you partner with 2 or 3 other organizations, don't you?
Yeah, we've supported Edge for many years. We've supported Easter Seals, the Southside Mission here in Peoria. Honestly, if people reach out, we try to find a way to support them. And so, but St. Jude certainly is our primary, contribution. And then honestly, Paul's Foundation is right there as well. And so, disc golfers like to give back. And so, that's really, people give me a lot of credit for, but really, we don't raise money without people buying special discs and, buying the Paul discs, or Paul coming and signing discs for 3 hours and then doing it again the next day and then playing a charity event for me. And he's like, hey, do I have more events? And I'm like, sure. Yeah, I would love for you to do more, so he keeps volunteering and I keep signing him up. And so it's really the community coming together to help me raise money for charity. So,
well, a moment ago you talked about not only his foundation in all the good things they're doing, but obviously it's spreading disc golf around the world, and that really could tie back to what has been somewhat of a heated question in the last week or two, is that we saw the PDGA Worlds was awarded to you and your staff, your organization. Congratulations. But that was also met with a little, I'll say, frustration by some, or either misunderstanding, frustration, outrage, whatever you want to call it, a little bit of everything probably. Well, I guess let's start there, and please tell us which hat you have to put on for this answer. Why would you get the award for to have it in Virginia when a lot of people really thought we were going to see it for the first time be international or across the pond over there in Finland?
Yeah, I, being the board president and the chair of the, of some committees with the PDGA, I'm in a tricky spot. And so, if I want to bid on an event, I have to completely recuse myself. And so, I don't really have any information to share on other bids but I'll say this, I think I've bid on almost 10 majors now. And there have been times when, there was a time back in 2016, the PDJ came to me and said, hey, we have no bids for this major. Will you bid on it? And I actually didn't get it because they went to somebody else as well. There have been times.
that seems harsh. It's like
a girl asking you out and then standing you up. Hey, meet me at Pizza Hut. And then she doesn't show up.
Ouch.
Well, the point is that they didn't have any bids for this major. And so they went to 2 cities and I wasn't the best bid, and that was fine. But I've bid on 3 majors. There were no other bidders besides me. And so I got it basically by default. I've bid on other majors where, there was probably only 1 qualified bid. And yeah, I probably bid on majors that there were multiple bids that were good, and, they chose our bid. And, when Downs called me and said, hey, you got the bid, blah, blah, blah. He said, hey, your bid was the highest scoring bid. I mean, it was a phenomenal bid. I flew out to Lynchburg. We had a really good proposal with the city of Lynchburg and Bedford County, and we tried to make it super competitive. And so, we wanted to make it hard to turn down. If they had come back and said, we're going to Finland, I would have said, how can I play? Like, I want to go over there, and so I would have been fine with that. So I want Worlds to go overseas. The bottom line is it obviously wasn't ready at this time for, other reasons. And so we're really excited for Lynchburg. And, I'll also say this, my fellow board members, they would make it, nobody is giving me the bid because I'm the board president. I think I would actually get a harder comb over my bid if I wasn't the board president, just because they want to make sure there's no, they want to keep everything above board, no pun intended. And so I think if I had to guess, they looked very closely at other opportunities, and they came back and said this was the best fit.
What would you say, and I don't want to just speak specifically to Finland, but what would you say to anyone that their bid has come up short or they weren't selected, and I guess sometimes that's one and the same. But Finland wasn't selected. A lot of people felt like it was a shoe-in. And as you said,
it had UC behind it, and we all know that UC usually puts on a phenomenal event. So I think everyone just felt like, oh, if UC's putting in a bid for this, it's a done deal. I mean, UC knows how to run majors.
I would say UC is one of the best I would say he's, one of the best tournament directors in the world. He and Jeff Spring and Doug Bjerkus and Jonathan Poole and Steve Dodge and others. And so he's obviously very qualified. And to answer your question, Terry, a lot of things go in that process. For any major, specifically for a pro major, what's the spectator revenue like? Can they take in spectator revenue? Do they have full control over the venues? Can they close the venues for all practice rounds? Can we do test events? What kind of local staff do we have? How long will it take to set things up? How much money is the local tourism board willing to give to the event? What's the local volunteer scene like? What's the history of working with the local event group? What's the recency of events here? Some people say, why weren't there any majors in California for 24, et cetera? We have to get bids to award a bid to a city or a state or a country. And so, there weren't, we don't get a plethora of bids. We ran Junior Worlds and Master Worlds last year. Those events didn't make a profit. And so it's tough to make money on every event that you run. Pro-only events are the easiest to turn a profit. And, I would say that they're also, the team is looking at, can the event be profitable? Do they have the courses suitable? Are the courses ready? What are the conditions of the baskets and the tee pads? And how much work will it take to get the facility up to speed?
Well, I was going to say, speaking of which, I mean, Lynchburg, Virginia doesn't have a rich history of disc golf majors or disc golf. These are relatively, in fact, one of the courses isn't even in the ground yet, if I'm correct. How does that, and granted, we saw this in Utah. Utah, when they got the bid for Worlds, the fort was
not complete.
It was not complete. And a lot of people said it was very rough. But when we got there, one of the greatest rounds in recent memory. So what's going on in Lynchburg that you feel that, you were able to get the bid when it has no history?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I was looking to host Worlds again in 24, and I wanted to host it in Peoria, but I knew that, honestly, if I did that, I may not be able to host Ledgestone, because the goal going forward is not to host two events in the same city in the same year. Yes, we just did it last year in Emporia, but it's not ideal. Nobody wants to come to Peoria or Emporia twice in 1 year. Some people like Terry don't even want to come once in the year. So,
I love being in Caterpillar land.
Regardless, I think, Johnny, to answer your question, Macbeth called me up, and he knew. I mean, I don't even think he knew that I wanted to host Worlds, and he said, "Hey, you should look at Lynchburg." And I said, "I am short one course." And he said, "I have the best golf course for disc golf you'll ever see." And I said, well, I'm not going to go out there until I've talked to the owner. And, I talked to the owner. I talked to the family, and they said, we'll give you the golf course for 10 days. We'll do this. We'll do this. So I had enough to go out there and kind of walk this course, and I was blown away. It really is going to be the best golf course I've ever seen for a disc golf tournament. And so it blows away anything I've seen. The elevation and the beauty. The course is at the base of the Blue Ridge Mountains, and so it doesn't need work. It doesn't need trimming. I mean, I already have the course laid out. I mean, we're probably going to use it for a college event here in a few months. It's pretty much ready to go. And then the wooded course, New London Tech, UDisc has it in the top 30 in the world. This is really going to be along the same model of the 2018 Pro Worlds. Wooded course, open course. At Fox Run, Brewster. 2019 Pro Worlds. Northwood Gold, Wooded, Eureka Temp, Sunset Open. 2021, Fort and Mulligan's, Open Wooded. And so I believe in that model, and I'm excited to be able to present two courses that I think players will walk away and say, wow, they knocked it out of the park. I think the last thing I'd say is I would never put my name on something that had the potential not to be successful. So I really believe that it'll be 100% ready, and the players will be really excited.
So quickly put your PDGA hat on for me and answer, are these bids public? So the bids that came in, can a PDGA member look at them comparatively side by side? Can they get one as an example? So for instance, if Terry Miller here wanted to run a Junior Worlds, could he look at one of the bids and be like, oh, this is a great way to write out a bid? I've seen Terry's writing. It's not great. Actually, you've got pretty nice handwriting, I'll say. It's all right. So can someone look at the bids, or maybe older bids?
No, they can't. And the reason is that, the PDJ event staff wants these individual teams to have, individuality and be creative and show us what you got. Shoot your shot and show us. And so, work with the local convention bureau and make it flashy. I remember one bid that I reviewed one time when I didn't bid that year. I mean, they sent an elaborate website, not the PDF bid. They designed a website, and it was interactive. It was incredible. And so, I would say that, bids aren't public, but we give you a 9-page framework of what you should include in your bid. And then the event support team and the event team, they answer any question you need to make a successful bid.
And speak a little bit to the bidding process in terms of how far out the PDGA is trying to get, the local organizing committees. What are some of those standard steps? Who do they reach out to? And then maybe even kind of at a high level, talk to us about what's going to be needed in any successful bid.
Yeah, I mean, when I ran 2019 Pro Worlds, I was thinking about the bid in 2015, and the local newspaper ran an article saying they want to bid on it. And I didn't bid on it until 2017, but by that time I had massive plans for Northwood Gold. So I was thinking about it 4 years in advance, and then looking at the course that we wanted to build at Northwood Gold years in advance. And then we spent hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so that's an extreme example, but generally you're looking at it 2 years in advance as the event host. And you have to have certainty you're going to be in the area still, and that you're committed to this, that your job would allow you to do this, because it's a huge time commitment. I mean, just, we're running the Champions Cup here in 3.5 months. I mean, it's hundreds of hours for me. And then I have 16 employees that work in disc golf. They're all, talking to video board companies or shuttle companies, staff locally. And so, to win a successful bid, though, you really need to try to work with a local visitors bureau. They can support the event financially. They can get hotel rebates and discounts. That helps bring revenue for the event. They can get negotiations for stuff that you wouldn't think of. Parking barriers. Stuff like that. They can work with tent companies and they have discounts. So your bid needs to show that you have a competent staff. They're probably not going to give a bid to somebody who has just run C tiers or those little leagues at Valley View, whatever Terry's course that he sets up on and sells kids, candy or whatever. So, right. So yeah, you have to show an experienced team. You have to show a volunteer plan and a food plan and water plan. I mean, we spend thousands of dollars on ice and water every year at Ledgestone. We spend almost $10,000 on porta potties, having them every certain number of holes. Obviously, there are guidelines. We care a lot about, what our female competitors say. And what they always tell us is have more porta potties on the course, right? And so there's so many things that go behind a successful bid, but showing all of that in a bid helps the PDJ say, okay, they have this together.
So a moment ago, you mentioned the PDGA, the Champions Cup. We also just saw, with regard to that, talking about planning, thinking ahead, months and ahead, and so on and so forth. Spectator tickets, I believe just tonight, were actually going on sale. What kind of undertaking is that now that we have ropes, spectators, Disc Golf Pro Tour is clearly dealing with this week in and week out. Now we're at the PDGA. at the PDGA headquarters, the International Disc Golf Center down in Appling for this event. Talk to us about what the spectator experience can and needs to be, and how that's evolving.
I mean, 2019 Pro Worlds was the first year that I ever thought of charging spectator revenue, and it changed my perspective on disc golf, because before that, we had these large crowds at Ledgestone every year. 2015 Ledgestone, we had 3,000 people there the last day, and it's taken me years to eclipse that. But once I started to charge, the spectator numbers didn't go down. They started to go up again from 2017, 18, after 19. And the reality is that people, they want to pay for value. And so if they're getting in free, if they plan on coming, maybe it gets hot, maybe it's, windy, maybe it's cold, maybe it's rainy, they don't come. If they're paying something, all of a sudden they assume they're getting value. I think if tournament directors can show that they're providing value at their event, whether it's, up and close viewing, autograph tents, access to sweet food, concerts, all of those things, it makes it easier to sell spectator tickets, which in turn professionalizes the sport, if that's a word. Once you start selling tickets and you can set up the parking barricades and set up the ropes and hire more staff and make it professional to where you're saying, this feels like a PGA Tour event. It feels professional. You can raise prices, and then all of a sudden players are playing for $20,000 first prizes, $30,000 first prizes. So I'm super excited to host the Champions Cup this year. Obviously, we got the bid for the Champions Cup. We were the only bid, as is public knowledge. When we released the results, we bid on it for Toboggan. It was then I was asked if I would be okay with moving it to the IDGC, and I accepted. Jackson's one of my favorite courses. I played the Hall of Fame Classic twice, and I love that property. They've made some changes, and I'm super excited to go back there here in a few months. And yeah, spectator tickets did go on sale tonight. It's going to be a great viewing experience. Bushnell Boulevard is kind of set up all over the course. People can access, and it's a wonderful facility.
What would you say to someone, and I understand you just gave us all the positives, what would you say to someone that says, we are also, though, that feels like in some degree we're gatekeeping, we're chasing away some families, we're chasing away some spectators that don't want to play, those aren't our roots. Playing disc golf, playing frisbee have traditionally been relatively inexpensive, if not completely free. What would you say to someone that feels like we're bastardizing or monetizing the sport?
Well, I mean, as someone on the board just said, European Open had how many people and they didn't charge anything?
I've got a different rebuttal to that, but what do you say to that, Nate?
Yeah, I would say the European Open is an interesting example. I don't believe they can charge at the Beast course, based on local, rules. I could be wrong there, but that's what I've been told many times, that they actually can't charge. But I would say that I don't believe that's the case. I think that people they want to spend money in disc golf. They want to support their favorite pro. They want to do these things. And look, if you're charging spectator revenue and just dumping it in your pocket, yeah, I suppose that's legal, because there's no guidelines really on what to do with that money. But the market will fix that. If you're doing that as a TD, it's going to come back to bite you. The bottom line is, if those TDs are putting that money back into the event, people notice. This year at D-Glow, we had almost 3,000 spectators on the last day. There were a lot of people there, and they paid for that. And we bumped up the added cash at the last second, because I didn't anticipate that many spectators. And, so I would say that people are okay with paying, especially at the prices we're charging, $10, $20, VIPs for $100 for a week. I mean, I want to go to a concert. I mean, I went to the Eagles this summer, and it was $180 for 2.5 hours for a concert, right? And so for one night. And so I think people are okay with paying for it if you're getting value.
And I think if we price the tickets appropriately, I mean, nobody wants to pay $50 for a 12-year-old to show up to an event. If we keep, families, or we keep it at a reasonable level, I don't see a problem in spectator charging. Personally, I think we have experiences, like you said, the VIPs, that where there are people who want to pay for an upgraded experience, and they will pay. It's every industry will do this. And so whether that's $100 or $200 for a day or a weekend, if they get the special perks and seating and whatever it is, we can give the people a lot of options. I don't see an issue at all with for the most part what most events I've seen charge.
Do you feel like we're going to get to a point where we're going to outgrow even our current venues? And because there might want to be 4,000 or 5,000 or 8,000 spectators, and we actually have to turn people away. Do you envision a day, even soon, where we're going to outgrow some of these venues?
I mean, I know it's already happening now. I mean, Maple Hill is one of my favorite places to go. I mean, I've took 4 different trips to play Maple Hill. I played the MVP Open twice, as a low-level pro scrub. I mean, I know it's that Steve's already. I'm sure he would say he's got ideas, and I'm sure he does. But even at Eureka, we're parking at the grade school parking lot, and Smugs. I mean, every venue has that problem, I think, right now, and they're working on how do we find more spots. That's the beauty of this golf course in Lynchburg. I mean, they just had 4,500 people at a 4th of July event. This summer, there's not many venues on tour right now that can even have 3,000 people. I think of the European Open that, whatever they said, 5,000, that number seems high, but maybe it's 4,000. I think that's probably capacity for nearly every venue. And I think it's going to be creative to try to get creative, to 6,000 and above. I think we're only at golf courses then. You're not fitting 1,000 people, at Brewster
Northwood
Ridge,
Black.
right? We could, I mean, 1,000 is our capacity at Black. We had that this year, and that's only the case because it's 90 acres and you can spread them out on, but most wooded courses, it's tough to get 1,000 people. The golf courses are easy, but people don't just like watching a golf course. So,
well, I think we're going to see, as you were saying earlier, the market will kind of sort this stuff out, hopefully, in that we're going to see things like final days be X amount more. Maybe you're not going to be able to take your 13-year-old to Sunday finishing round because those prices might go up to $50, $70, $100, but maybe the Thursday, Friday, or a Saturday event special for kids because it's summer or there's school, depends on when the year is, but whatever, will be cheaper. And so you can bring families in. And, but you're right. I think we're going to start hitting, hopefully, these capacities for some of our courses that
I think,
I don't know
long term, as the sport grows, you'll see more money in the spectator experience. You look at the Phoenix Open, they can fit 80,000 fans in that property there because of the grandstands they built. We're not there yet, but we're at bleacher level, and we're going to get to the level where we can fit maybe some larger grandstands.
Well, a couple of those top performing players that we have year in and year out, of course, comes down to being granted some honors, such as Player of the Year. And this last weekend, I believe it was almost immediately after clock struck midnight, it was announced that we saw our PDGA Players of the Year in the FPO side, of course, Paige Pierce, and on the MPO side, Paul Macbeth. Robert Burridge, your MPO Rookie of the Year, and Aria Castorita, your FPO Rookie of the Year. Because it's the internet, and partially because people can't read and or do maths, this was met with a lot of criticism and a fair amount of uproar. So explain to anyone what they're missing, what we're missing, because the smell test, the immediate knee-jerk reaction sniff is that doesn't sound right. It just doesn't sound right. There's no way. Blah. So explain to us what happened, and then if it's going to continue, or maybe this gets taken into consideration or doesn't.
Yeah, I would say first of all on the MPO side, I think Ricky, Paul, and Simon all had incredible years, and either of those three players probably could have claimed best player of the year. I think the bottom line is, if I compare golf to disc golf or tennis to disc golf, people talk about um, Jack and Tiger and how many majors and how close Tiger got. They talk about in tennis, all they talked about for 10 years was Federer chasing Sampras, and then Nadal and Djokovic trying to catch Federer, and then now, et cetera, et cetera. At the end of the day, I think if you gave this list of these three players to 100 pros, I think more of them would choose Macbeth's season. And so I think, if you look at the majors, Paul was 85 strokes ahead of Simon. He was 40 strokes ahead of Ricky cumulatively at the four majors. Ricky had a great year, and Ricky could have won this event. Paul had a great year. Simon had a great year. I think that the point system does value majors extensively more than smaller events, and then it does have, the A-tier side of it. But even if I think Paul won 5 A-tiers, if you take all of those out, Paul still wins the award. And so I think it was his performance in the majors that won him the award based on the points. And this was the process that was announced back in January. And we're always tweaking the formula. In fact, we've been working on a tweak for months, and the new formula will be announced shortly, maybe even in the next week. And if you look at golf, the FedEx Cup formula, it's changed, almost every year, in terms of, now they're starting, whoever's in first place starts at 12 under, and then the guy in 30th starts at 2 under. It's constantly evolving and changing. And so on the MPO side, that's what I would say there. On the FPO side, Kristen had an amazing finish to the year. She had a great year in general. But Paige still won 2 majors. There are not many FPO players, period, that can say that they've won 2 majors in their entire career. And Paige won 2 of them in the same year. Obviously, Kristen won Worlds, and Kristen, had a phenomenal year. But the award is a cumulative award. That's really, the more you play, the more you rack up, the better you play in the majors. Kristen was injured and missed 2 majors. And she missed, in fact, 10 weeks of this season. And she still had an amazing year. And she could have won the award. Paige could have won the award. But the reality is that, Paige had more points.
I don't think there's an argument that, like you said about Paul, everyone would have taken Tatar's year. Tatar had a better year than Paige Pierce. She won Worlds. She won a bunch of events. Rarely finished out of third.
Never finished out of third.
But if you take the time she took off, those 10 weeks, and you have her play, and and because she's injured, if she finishes towards the bottom of these events, she takes 12th or 15th at U.S. Women's or something. Endurance matters in our sport. Like it or not, you have to attend. And I personally don't have a problem with the PDGA weighing their majors the way they do. You, again, Mr. Man of Many Hats, you are a PDGA board, but you also help run the Pro Tour. You have 3 events? Yeah. I don't know what you run. Whatever. And so the fact that the PDGA weighs their majors more, to me, makes the most sense. If the DGPT came out with their DGPT Player of the Year awards, and they, as they're looking at some of their formulas, and they're weighing what the Elite Series Plus the same as majors this upcoming year, a lot of people were like, well, that's not fair. The majors are better. Well, guess what? It's the DGPT. They want to weight their events to make them feel like they're as big as majors. Like, it all makes sense to me. And people that are, even in our board here, obviously they're not complaining, but just stating that, points are so, the criteria is subjective, not necessarily that the points are subjective, because you could pick any criteria. What I say is that the minute you add like a fan vote or a player vote or anything like that, and you add subjectivity into this, you're going to run into issues that we saw 2 years ago with the Paige Pierce Katrina Allen thing where we suddenly had co-players of the year, and it was a little weird and awkward, and nobody quite understood or really liked it. I think the only thing people could maybe, and I don't know what the tweaks are that are coming, because obviously you're going to be announcing them, but I think some people had said, maybe we drop one of the majors. You don't have to count all 4 majors. But to me, that seems kind of silly. Like, you have
we're not gonna we're not gonna do that. So
okay,
so
even,
I mean, because really it's a and look, the DGPT had player of the year. They came out with, they released, I think they released their player of the year, the points winner, and so they have their word, and the PDJ has theirs. And I mean, as I said, Kristen you look at Kristen's season, she had a great year, but so did Paige. I mean, it's not, you can't fault Paige for Kristen not being on tour and for Kristen being injured. Kristen, if she had played those 10 weeks, maybe she dominates. But Paige played more events, and she, as you said, endurance does matter. But really, performance in majors. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't think anybody cares how many Elite Series wins Ricky has, or Paul has, or Dave Feldberg had, because he has a ton. They do care. I think history cares about how many majors did Dave Feldberg win. Well, actually, it was a lot. How many did Macbeth win? How many did Ricky win? And really, I mean, Paul has shown that, I mean, I think it was, Paul, he may have had a down year by his standards, but it certainly wasn't a down year, right? If we're used to Paul winning 12 events, he still won a lot of events, but he turns it on to a different level at majors. And, and so that really, that weighs heavily into the points.
Okay. Well, I guess my big takeaway, and I feel like this can be said of a lot of policies, and I know we've had updates to the rules, the new 2023 season's in place. One of the larger conversation pieces, of course, being the transgender policy and how we're moving forward with that. I'll repeat what I said about that to even what I'm saying here, in the sense that, like, I think we should be, if you want to argue that you don't like the policy for X, Y, and Z reason, that's fine. But when you're bringing the subjectivity of it into the actual people at hand, because what almost everybody said is, it just feels like so-and-so had the better year. Of course, I can understand how you feel that. I mean, as you just said, Kristen Tatar had this insanely great year, topped by her first ever Worlds championship, and Ricky and Simon, again, incredible years. No one's denying that. But at the beginning of the year, the criteria was laid out, and all you can do is play by the criteria that's in front of you for this given time frame. And so if you want to argue that you don't like the criteria, that's fine, but don't get it twisted how it then is the PDGA, for instance, followed by the letter of the law what the criteria was, and then you disagreed with it and said, well, that just doesn't feel right. Well, it's just math. At that point, it's literally math. And
and I would,
it's just frustrating to watch and to see.
And I would say, in general, what I would always ask our members to do, put yourself in the board shoes. We don't make decisions on personal bias and personal feelings, and we're fiduciaries for the organization. We're trying to think of, and trying to act in the best interest of the PDGA and growing the sport. So for any decision we've made, we put aside personal bias. We put aside personal opinion and think, what is the best thing for the PDGA? What is the best thing to grow the sport of disc golf? And how can we act in the best interest of our members? We're elected by the members. And so, we have to kind of keep that in mind. It doesn't matter how I feel personally about XYZ topic. It matters, what's the best for the organization.
Well, and I guess only because you stepped right into that statement of how you matter. There's a very vocal person on the board that feels as if you've had personal stances on sexuality or preference or anything of that nature. You just said that as a board member and as someone leading the organization, your personal preference is set aside. Where does, or your personal beliefs and feelings get set aside, where does that line get drawn of when anyone I'll say, acts as a board member versus acting as an individual PDGA member? Where do you feel like, how does that distinction get made, and who does or doesn't, I don't want to say get a pass, that's not the right word, but where does that distinction get made? I mean, are you always Nate Heinold, the board member?
Yeah, it's interesting. Whenever a new board member comes on, I'm coming up on my 6th year on the board, and my term ends here this year, and I kind of have to take on the task of telling our new members that you really don't get to have a personal opinion anymore, because we have to think about what's best for the organization. So yes, I get the comments. This gentleman on the board here, I get comments like that from time to time, and I get emails, and a lot of them are unfounded. I mean, I honestly have nothing against any group of people. I put any personal opinion aside. I don't even have most of the personal opinions that people accuse me of having. And so that's the ironic part. I used to fight about it on Facebook, maybe 8-10 years ago, and now I just take the hit and I move on, and I do it for the betterment of the sport. I do my job for the PDJ as a volunteer, and so saying I have anti this views or anti that views, it's just not true. So yeah, I am a Christian, and I've never hid that. I don't push that on people. I don't use any of those beliefs in my work for the PDJ. I never have, and I never will. I've voted for several things that I wasn't even personally, in favor of. And so just because it's what's better for the organization. So, Justin Menichelli and I, used to, serve on the board, and we would comment that he and I are very different, and we didn't always agree. But we both wanted to, we were passionate about the sport of disc golf and doing what was right for the sport. And so when somebody accuses me of this or that, I don't argue anymore, but I don't have a bias against any group of people or anything. I love all disc golfers. I respect all viewpoints. I try to be as fair to, I listen to both sides. I think if you ask my fellow board members, they would say that I'm mostly always trying to get to a consensus. Not always the case, but I'm always trying to find middle ground, because I don't want us to be the U.S. Congress or the U.S. Senate, where we're always just these hardline views, and so any of my personal beliefs, I throw them out the door, and I encourage all of our board members to do that. Leah, you mentioned her, earlier. She's a good example. She doesn't bring her own personal biases to the table, and we've always talked about that as a board, to say we have to do what's right for the sport, and that may not be something I want to do. I've been in the minority many times with votes, and I haven't liked it, but I respect the process and I move on. And so yeah.
Okay. And as we'll move on from here, I do have to quickly ask, though, it was a couple of weeks ago, we had ultimately what was going to be the new policy and procedure moving forward with transgender athletes within disc golf. My question at this point is, it's enacted for 2023. We're told it's essentially going to be a working document that will continue, working policy that will continue to get revised or reviewed. Thank you, reviewed and possibly revised, but reviewed year after year. My point is, it's been a couple of weeks. I guess my question to you is, has there been any additional clarification, follow-up, leaning feedback? Is there anything that is that hasn't been discussed that is, well, I'll say, new since that policy has been announced?
No, not that I'm aware of. Okay. As our statement said, we spent a whole year on this. We started in January and finished that process just 5 or 6 weeks ago. And so it was a very comprehensive process. And our members were very passionate about, giving us their opinion, whether it was the survey or feedback on social media. And so It was very outspoken on both sides, but we were very comprehensive, no changes that need to be announced. And I believe our release said we would review it annually. Yeah.
Is there something that will trigger a review, or is it kind of just every year we're going to take a look and look at the policy, and if nothing changes, or is there something specific that will, for the PDGA, that will be like, no, we really need to address this? Because it feels like if this decision took 6, 8, 10 months to decide, it doesn't feel like if you guys review it in, we'll just say November, you're looking at it in November and you say, all right, that anything would happen in such a short amount of time before the next year. So to me, it kind of feels like even if it's reviewed, it's going to take another 6 months to review. So we're almost in this policy maybe for another 2 years for certain while it's reviewed. Would you say that's a fair assessment?
I would just say that, we're going to review it annually, meaning,
Okay.
we're not going to sit here and every month, okay, wow, do we need to look at this again because of this? But, the one thing that is always going to happen in any industry, in any sport, is change will be constant. Other organizations, sporting organizations, will come out with, policies and studies and et cetera. So that information may be compiled all year and then we review it, but we're reviewing everything that we do all the time. It may not mean that we make, changes, but we have to review. We have policies now that need updating that maybe had a mistake. Maybe things have changed with, a few years ago, one porta potty for a course was fine, and now it's every 4 to 6 holes you need it. And so the goal is to always be, looking at this, and that's what I would just tell our members once again. The board puts aside personal bias, and we look at any issue from the perspective of what's the best for the organization, whether it's awarding a major or any topic. That's what we're looking at doing, is acting in the best interest of our members, and that's what we were elected to do. So,
not, I guess it's hard to say not related. You said this is you're coming up for re-election this upcoming year.
Well, you said this is the end.
This is the end.
Are you putting words in his mouth?
I would no. The question I'm asking is, have you decided whether you're going to rerun for next year, or is that something that you haven't decided upon yet?
I have not decided, and I do want to give a shout out to Billy on the board. Billy, good to see you there. Billy, I've seen her out at many events, and she's a wonderful photographer. But I have not decided. That's more of a question for Mrs. Heinold, my wife, and so
Let's get
that's
her on
really
the
the truth.
interview. Where's she at?
She's in Kentucky right now, so she went down to see her family. But I don't know if I'm going to run again. So it's I'm working on a proposal right now with the board for elections going forward to make things a little bit more streamlined. But it's a huge. It's a complete volunteer time commitment. This last year has been 20 hours a week, and that was hard. I have a 4-year-old and I have a 15-year-old who's driving. Okay, so scary, but I would love to continue to run, but it's a massive volunteer time commitment that I give, and I also, I run Ledgestone and I run Deglow and I have 16 employees in
Champions
disc golf,
Cup.
and I'm supposed Champions Cup, and we process thousands of orders every month, through our warehouse, and I volunteer for Paul's Foundation, and I'm supposed to have an insurance job, which that's, so I don't have enough hours to do everything that I want to do. And I don't want, my goal in just in disc golf in general is, and what I would tell anybody listening that wants to start a business or get involved in disc golf, don't focus on too many things. In my opinion, my team does 3 things really well, and I don't want to broaden it beyond that. I don't want to let's get into the business of, putting courses in the ground. Let's get in the business of branding baskets and selling them. Let's make discs. Discraft can just make Ledgestone discs. I want to do the things that we do really well, and that's what I would tell any business. And if I was a consultant for them, stick to the things that you do well and your core competencies, and do those things better than anybody else. And I would say that I'm always working on all of our core competencies, but in terms of running events, I would put, my team in the top 5, not me, my team. I have such a great team to run events, and I am not the best TD in the game, but I feel that I have the best people working for me, and I get all the credit for. But really, it's nothing without Jamie Kemp and Michael Munn and KO and Mike Krupicka and Dustin Leatherman and Zach Smith and Dalton and Andrew and all of my team coming together. And so if you're running events, find a good team that makes you look good, because that's what helped me, get these bids and get these majors and run these events.
Well, you certainly have a busy 2023 in store. I'm sure I'm going to be seeing you at a number of these events, and looking forward to all of it. The last thing, I think I wrote a note down because I saw something when I was digging around last night. Your obviously Ledgestone, your Ledgestone Open. I hate to call it your premier event, but because you're running all of these. But amateur registration, that's on the is that released tomorrow night? What are we looking at?
It opened January 1st.
Okay.
And for people who sponsor a hole or buy a 3-pack of discs, they get to register early. We have less than 100 spots left.
Okay.
This year, the event is presented by Merrill, so I was very excited after trying for 7 years to get Merrill.
You finally got your foot in the door. Hey, yo!
Finally,
All right, just end it. Just end it. We're done.
Yeah, okay. I'm sorry. So you got Merrill. They're on board.
And
can I get a new pair of shoes, Daddy?
If you're on staff, you get a free pair of shoes. Yes, all staff members get shoes.
I'll be there.
Yeah, maybe. I mean, depends on if you're being paid by the Disc Golf Network. I'm not giving you any shoes. So
yeah, you are. Come on, I need shoes.
Every AM player.
Like the one thing you don't need.
Have you ever wore the shoes that I gave you the last 2 years?
They're out. I wore them out entirely. They were incredible. I love them.
What color were they?
They were blue. You didn't give me a pair last year, jerk. Oh. So the blue ones I got are completely worn out. I love them, but they're donezo. So yeah, Tear Bear needs a new pair of shoes.
And the one for the AMs this year, they get an exclusive grip equipment bag. So exclusive. So that's what they get this year. And so pretty excited for Ledgestone. I call it the flagship event, not the premiere. It's kind of our flagship event.
Yeah.
So
well, it makes sense. I understand the name, the branding. All right. Well, Nate, I know you got a ton of things to do, and we appreciate you staying up. I know it's also past your bedtime, so thank you for joining us.
He stays up all night.
Yeah.
No, I'm
the animal.
Nobody rages like Nate. Let me tell you.
I'm gonna go watch Survivor, or get on, play Halo. I'm just kidding. So that was the 90s. So
Survivor and Halo. Give me some Mountain Dew Red, and I was
going to tell him to drink a Zima, but I know he won't. So, all right. Well, Nate, seriously, we understand you're, anyone that steps up and takes on a lot of responsibilities, volunteer or paid or otherwise, in a leadership position. Not everything's going to be perfect, and I know that you're always striving to get better and to improve. And I've seen your growth. I've seen how you've developed not only as a tournament director, but also as this leader and organizer throughout the last decade, really. And I know the road's not easy, and I know there's plenty of criticism abound, sometimes rightfully so, and sometimes not so much. But I know you have grown a lot in taking it in stride. So we appreciate the number of hats that you wear and the way you've put yourself out there to try to lead the way in a lot of different categories in terms of disc golf development. So, you may or may not hear it enough, but nonetheless, we do thank you.
We appreciate
the disc golf community is better because of the work that you're doing. So we do appreciate it.
I would end it with this story. Back after the 2015 Ledgestone, Terry, that was the first time that you worked one of my events. You were there. We'll call it. It was a rough go. I had a lot of criticism. I was sitting in my new house on my kitchen counter. You were there with me. And I was basically almost in tears saying, why would I ever want to do this again? I was heavily criticized, rightfully so. But you know what? I got back on my feet and I made things better. And that's what I would tell anybody. Expect the criticism when you run events, but take it in stride and make your events better, because people will come back. Ledgestone started with 105 players, and last year we had 2,200, which was by far the largest disc golf tournament ever. And so take the feedback in stride. There are a lot of haters out there, but most people are going to appreciate what you do as a tournament director.
Hashtag bring back the volleyball hole.
Yeah.
Oh,
Sandy up in here. All right, Nate, seriously, we appreciate it. Thanks for all the insights. Again, official, unofficial, and everywhere in between in those capacities. And I say it to you, but I also do strongly say it to the rest of your fellow PDGA volunteers and staff members. You guys are always welcome. I feel once a month at least we should have a PDGA person on our podcast so that we can get the scoop and learn more and spread the love of the PDGA around a little bit greater. So make sure everybody knows they need to be joining us here.
I'm going to tweet him and Facebook, or no, MySpace, because we're in the 90s, right? I'm going to MySpace him.
You go MySpace him. All right. You're getting out of MySpace now. We'll talk to you later, Nate.
Bye, Nate.
See ya.
There was no MySpace in the 90s.
Nah, not quite, but it still felt right.
Maybe he should go start a blogger,
Angel Fire account, or
live journal.
Yeah, something like that. Nonetheless, thank you guys. Thank you, Nate, for joining, and thank you all for jumping on here and getting in on the action. Guys, don't go anywhere. We actually have a ton more. I think we're going to close out the regular show here unless you have anything else major. We've got more guests already lined up for the after show. That's how you know stuff is wild tonight. We've got after show guests planned.
Jam-packed tonight, Terry.
Jam-packed. Speaking of Space Jam, no, maybe not. Technotronic, Pump Up the Jam?
Pump Up the Jam. NBA Jam on the Sega?
He's on fire. Oh my gosh, so much good stuff. All right, guys. Wow, that feels like we consumed a lot, and we have more for you. Off to an incredible start here in 2023. I will reserve all frustrations for it being an odd number year because I hate odd numbers. So 2023 just looks and sounds terrible to me from an optics perspective. I know.
Seriously?
You know how excited I am for 2024? It's like the 2 2s are even and they add up to a 4. Like
I get that part, but there's
I have a thing against odd numbers. So 2023.
That's why Terry doesn't get ones on his scorecard.
Just feels terrible. But I am looking forward to an incredible year, and I think some of the individuals we just talked to, both of them, are all going to be part of that continued growth and craziness within disc golf. So we're going to close out the regular show. All that means for you guys, though, is we're going to take a quick break. We're going to recognize a few people that jumped on, that subscribed and or super chatted us. Thank you to them. We'll take a quick break, and then if you just stay right there, or you go get your popcorn, and by the time you come back, we will be in the after show where we talk about things disc golf related, non-disc golf related, and tonight we even have a couple of special guests, including at least one future Hall of Famer. All right.
You're touching all the touchy subjects.
We'll get there. For Johnny V, I'm Terry Miller, the disc golf guy. Thank you to Nate, along with Josh. We'll see you guys in the after show. You step inside the Smash Box.
Thank you to our $2 and above patrons. Your name is listed below in the credits. If you are interested in being listed as a producer in the Smashbox TV credits and supporting this and other fine podcasts, please visit patreon.com/SmashboxTV.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Smashbox TV Podcast 436's After Show. Nailed it.
I got a message yesterday from Hannah Macbeth
Jeez.
asking for free tech advice. They just moved into their new place, and they had some questions about Wi-Fi and such like that. So I gave her my professional opinion, and the invoice is
Did you
on the
give it
way.
all wrong?
I know, that would be pretty funny.
That's where I would have gone with that.
No. Gave her all the best advice. That's what I do.
Somebody's told me, by the name of Hannah Macbeth, that Paul specifically is looking to drop his tour schedule maybe as early as tomorrow.
Ooh, look at that.
I've got a copy. So here's where he's
I mean, we know that he's going to Europe for like 6 or 8 weeks or something.
and I know there's a few events that I've seen him signed up for on the PDGA.
Yep. You have to assume he's going to hit most of the Pro Tour when he's not in Europe, because he's going to miss, I think, 3 or maybe 4 Pro Tour stops while he's in Europe.
Yeah, I feel like we've seen a couple of pros start releasing their tour schedule. Looking forward to it. And I know, maybe I'm a little predictable, but that's one of my go-to questions often when talking to our pros at this time of year is there anything that's out of the ordinary that we're going to see you at next year or not see you at maybe? And sometimes they'll say, oh, there's an A tier at my favorite course that's a little off the beaten path. I'm going to skip such and such event. Chris Dickerson, he's another great example. I think it was just yesterday where he released his touring schedule.
For the first time ever.
And
he's going to Europe.
He is, but he also then made a distinction in that he won't be traveling out to the West Coast, which that's on brand with what he's done the last couple of years. I think there's so many. I love seeing our pros, for whatever their reasons, because there's no judgment for me whatsoever. If you're taking off a leg or a swing or a handful of events or just 2 events, whatever the case might be, I don't care why you're doing it. Good for you. I guess some of our players will say that they feel that they're playing for the fans, and but at the end of the day, you're playing for yourself, and you're the one winning the awards or not, and you go play whatever your heart desires. I don't think our players owe it to any fans to do anything personally when it comes to what they're competing in. I can understand being a little disappointed that your favorite pro doesn't come play in a certain event, but they don't owe it to you.
I do like that the announced tours happen before the ticket sales, because we talked about this last year. What happens when you buy tickets for Jonesboro and then you find out later Paul Macbeth isn't going to be there, and that was the one guy you wanted to see. And again, I haven't seen Paul's schedule yet, but in general, things like that. So I'm glad we get to see a lot of the pros' schedules ahead of time.
Okay, and speaking of schedules and ahead of time, are you seeing? Do you have to click on a different link to see
maybe
some other people? Because I'm sitting here not seeing what I thought I should be seeing.
So hold on one second. Let me just.
Oh, it's that time.
It is. Someone had a really great question on the board about. For those of you that don't know, there was a huge NFL thing that came up on Monday night with a player who went into cardiac arrest. Someone asking if what would happen on the Pro Tour if something like that happened. And I was saying, like, we literally saw that last year with Johnny McRae, who who had a heart attack on the course, and our players kept playing.
Yeah, well,
I mean, I'm not judging the NFL by any means. I think they made the right decision because it was a hugely traumatic issue. But an interesting question on what would happen with the Pro Tour, and I don't know what that answer is, but
it's and again, in fact, I was going to go out and look for some updates.
I haven't seen any.
The only headline, I'm just quickly reading a headline that says, "Uncle says Damar Hamlin still fighting, family grateful for support." So unfortunately, I don't have any other concrete updates to that, and of course, we hope for a recovery. If wow, it's just absolutely crazy. Anyway, for now, We're gonna stay on brand with the old frisbee golf thing, and with that, we're gonna bring in a couple of superstars from the West Coast. We've got Mike Jewell along with Steven Rico.
Stevie, happy birthday, Rico.
Hi guys.
Thank you. What's going on, boys?
Oh
How's it
my
going?
gosh. Yes, here we are, early January 2023. As Johnny just alluded to, we said it in the beginning of the show, Steve just celebrated a birthday on January 1st. And if I carry the one,
Grandmasters?
that's got to make you,
wait.
what, 43?
29.
Yeah, you wish.
Yeah, 44.
44. Okay, so you are, okay. Okay,
Still
so
down
you're,
by a strip, I think.
yeah. We're close. Now we're officially the same
You're
age.
same age right now for a few
Okay,
months.
I love it. Mike Jewell,
Yes,
how you
sir.
doing, buddy?
Doing great.
So you guys are not only experiencing much better weather out there in California, but here we are entering another season of disc golf. Steve, you've been around for I think just shy of forever. Mike, you've been playing. I've seen you at some Masters events. Let's go a little higher level for a moment. What can we expect to see out of you two in terms of playing, in terms of competition, or not, in this new year?
Well, I plan on playing Masters Worlds and probably the Tim Solinsky and try to get to Pro Worlds this year if I can. Maybe some local Pro Tour events that's around the West Coast. And a lot of local stuff, pretty much. 8 years maybe right around here in California.
And if anyone's silly enough and somehow doesn't already know, Steve Rico, of course, co-owner of Legacy Discs, longtime PDJ with, 172,000 wins? Over 100 wins. You've got a lot.
I don't even keep track of that stuff.
I don't even keep, I got too many wins. Just give a few to Mike sitting next to you. All right, Mike Jewell. Mike, I've seen you at a number of events, but not quite on tour the way that Steve Rico has been or will be this year. What are some of your plans for 2023 competition, if any?
Let's see. I like to play the Daniel Bowe Memorial down in San Diego. I like playing the Goat Hill tournament that Alan Risley runs also down in San Diego. If I ever get in, I like playing Masters Cup. That's awesome, always. I've always enjoyed playing the Wintertime Open. I'm kind of sad I don't get to play it anymore, but, is what it is.
Yeah.
At least one tournament up at Wrightwood every year. So
And
Wrightwood's up in it's like 8,000 feet. So
okay, and I was going to say, and occasionally I've seen you dip your toes into a little bit of Arizona golf, if time allows. What do you do full time? We know Steve, makes frisbees and lays concrete. What do you do full time?
let's say that I build rockets. Let's say that I build rockets.
You can pull that off.
Yeah.
Okay, whatever that means.
SpaceX, NASA.
Jeez.
My profile officially says NASA, but I don't even know if that's accurate.
Huh?
Or not.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't want to know if I actually work there. No, that makes sense. All right, boys. So one of the, I said it earlier in the show, one of the events that not only has this insane history and is long-standing, but has also often kind of been the official kickoff, what some have said, to our touring season. And someone like Steve, who's played it forever, someone like Paul Macbeth, who I think won it 7 out of 8 years. It feels like it's essentially kicked off our touring season, is the Wintertime Open. So give us some of that history in terms of what it's meant to you, Steve, this event that's been going on forever.
Well, it means a lot to me. This is the 45th annual, a lot of history behind this event. The first time I played it, it was in 1988. That's when I became a PDJ member. It was my first time playing the event. Look forward to it every year. It does kick off the season. It's a great event. Mark Horn and Susie Horn ran it for years and years. They finally let Johnny Tompkins take it over. So Johnny Tompkins ran it for a couple of years. You helped him run it, and Johnny turned it over to us. And it was a really cool story that me and this guy were kind of hanging out in a hot tub thinking about running this event. I go, no weird stuff. And
There were some weird things. Don't let them lie to you.
There's
Don't
some.
let 'em lie to you.
Yeah.
There
It's
were
impossible
levels.
not to be.
I brought it up. I said, "Hey, do you want to take this on and be co-TDs and run this event?" And he said, "Let's do it." And that's this is our third time running it. We had during the COVID year, we had to get it done and run it right away. So it was like a quick B tier that we ran, and then that was in December, and then we ran it in February, like right after that again. And now this time for the pro weekend, we got an 8-tier status. So pretty cool.
Yeah, what happened was Johnny Tompkins put in the bid to be able to do it at the park, and they turned him down because of COVID. And then a couple months later, tournaments in California started happening again, and that's kind of ended up being when we were at the World Championship in Tennessee and sitting in that hot tub, and we just talked it over and decided we'd help out the longest running tournament, the finger quotes asterisk longest running tournament at the oldest course. Wanted to keep that tradition going, and we had to smash something together. I think we had 3 weeks to put together that first one.
Yeah.
That would have been the 42nd, 43rd,
Yeah,
43rd,
yeah.
the 43rd, and we smashed that one together real fast and got away with it. It was kind of cool, and then only had another month and a half before the 44th. So
Yeah,
exciting.
I mean, they always say all of the best disc golf ideas start in hot tubs.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I've heard that.
so here we are. And so talk a little bit about the course, because some people still may not have any idea what we're referencing or talking about, but talk about the course and the history and, well, all of disc golf.
It's in the city of Pasadena, Hahamunga Watershed Park. It's kind of like it was like leftover land. The park originally, it was a oak grove, essentially the whole thing for a long time, and it was like a runoff area for just a watershed thing, like an arroyo type place. So yeah,
it's been went in the ground, I think in was it 1976,
76. I think that sounds right.
Yeah, and it's the first basket course, and a lot of history there, a lot of great champions, and a lot of the SoCal players from the original guys from back in the day. Jeff and Johnny Lissaman, John Ahard, Stokely, a lot of those guys all played down there early on. So a lot of history there. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, and some of that history, I was just going to say, some of that history is even depicted in Scott Stokely's book. And I mean, obviously, you guys and everyone in California could go on for hours and hours talking about various stories and experiences down there, around a campfire or in a hot tub. Stokely outlaid a few of those in his book, talking about like that property essentially helping him grow up and, be present there, and what the disc golf community was to him, at that stage in his life, finding that property. And, you guys and Philo and others, I mean, the list goes on and on, like you said, it could go on with hundreds of people where Oak Grove is planted the seed, or people have taken root as Oak Grove being, that first course and that first place that they played and fell in love with disc golf. And I'm honored that I got to play there a few years ago myself. Cliff Town and a few others were out there, and it was awesome that I got to see it. So, we just talked, and I feel like you guys are such a perfect mesh when we talk about, we had Josh on earlier from Lone Star, obviously in the disc golf making business, as you are, Stevie, talking to Nate Heinold in the tournament directing business, as you guys are also doing right now. What does it mean to put together an A tier in the early part of a season, and what are some of either the benefits or the struggles that you guys experience in putting together a PDGA A tier in 2023?
Well, it's a lot of work, obviously. It's tough nowadays to get A tier status approved. Everybody wants to run an A tier their first year running an event, so it took us a couple years to run back-to-back B tiers to get to the A tier status. I had a little bit of help with Alan Risley to kind of push that through for us. He has the Goat Hill coming up the weekend before our event as an A tier, and then it's ours, and then leading up to that, we go to Vegas Memorial. But there's a lot of work behind it, a lot of fundraising. Dealing with the park system, especially like LA County, it's tough to work with the parks. But the Oak Grove Club is really, really good with them. They work hand in hand with them a lot, so they helped us out and pushed that through. So there's a lot of work that goes on just besides just running the tournament. All the stuff behind the scenes, there's a lot going on.
Yeah, and Mike, I'll throw this at you and say, like, expand on a few of the details because, Nate Heinold talked about it. What were standards a year ago or 2 years ago or 5 years ago have all increased. They've all, become stricter and have, tried to level up the game. What are a few of those things that you guys are making sure that you have to concern yourselves with?
The first part is with the parks for us, and it's always with the parks with us. I know that if you run a tournament in another state that has far less government, you're going to deal with far less issues. But with us, we're in California. They've got the biggest government on the planet. I don't want to talk politics or anything, but there's so many hoops that you have to jump through to make things happen. Steve's had to deal with that in the past with helping put courses in. I've had to deal with it in the past, putting courses in. I spent the better part of 7 years stopping by and talking with a park director to get a 9-hole course put in the ground, meeting after meeting after meeting, and just hanging out with him. He's a great guy. I love that guy. And that's just the biggest obstacle, being able to get that permit down when you need it, and having to lock down other parts of the park. Like for us, we have to deal, there's a little baseball field and essentially 2 makeshift soccer fields back to back to back with the course. If you've ever been to Oak Grove before, there's a baseball field right on the left of your tee on hole 1. And then when you're throwing hole 2, the backside of the baseball field's over there. And then once you get to hole 3, you're talking about those 2 makeshift soccer fields. Sometimes they're rugby fields and things like that. To me, that's the biggest obstacle, is dealing with Parks and Rec, trying to get those guys to jump on board with us and give us a low enough price tag to make it worth it for everybody to get out there and be able to compete and have a big enough payout. With the A tier now, we have to put in $3,000 out of cash, I believe is what the number is. So that's a lot of money. That's a ton of money. We're going to have to do a lot of fundraising. One of the ways that we do that fundraising is we allow pre-registration for a certain amount of time. And we allow our sponsors, people that want to sponsor the event, throw $100 at it. And we let those guys sign up early. And, I think you're allowed 33% of your total sign up pool to be pre-registration. So it's pretty awesome. I love that. And big shout out to everybody that decided to do that the last couple of years, and this year especially. The prices did increase for us because now we had to, because it's an A tier, we have to create a warm-up space for the professionals. And so we had to rent out the baseball field and the soccer field. So way bigger price tag.
And speaking of that,
makes me want to pay more. Yeah.
Well, I was just going to say, speaking of that, every municipality across the country, everywhere from they'll all but pay you to come run an event to exorbitant fees, what some would say, on the opposite side of the spectrum. Just for your perspective, roughly what are some of those fixed rental park fees? Because I think, and I'm asking you that because I think other listeners around the country might gasp.
Oh gosh. I paid $2,000 to run a 2-day event once. I paid $15 to run a 1-day event once. So it has nothing to do with the day. It just depends on how they,
a lot of the areas.
It's the area.
Okay. Because you have to use the soccer field, like you said, and so on, right?
I ran a tournament a couple weeks ago at Somar, and I had to rent out a piece of the upper part of the grass up top and a couple of picnic areas I had to rent out. That was all additional cost. It wasn't just the 18-hole disc golf course. I had to use a little bit more room and a few other things. So it's all just added cost in there.
Yeah, I would say the best deal that I've made with a park was with Glen Helen Regional Park, and that's out near the 215 area. I don't know what town that is.
San Jose area?
I think it's San Bernardino.
Okay.
Yeah, San Bernardino County. The deal that I made with them was actually pretty good. They asked for $500, and I said, I'll do you better. I will guarantee that you're going to get 100 cars through your gate, and if you don't, I'll pay the difference. And so I didn't have to pay anything for that. Luckily, because I had paid so much at Wrightwood, because it was a 2-course tournament, and I basically guaranteed them that they were going to get a certain amount of cars through the gate, which I think they got $7 per car. So they've made well over that. I went up and asked them, and they said, we did way more than you guaranteed. So I didn't have to pay them anything. So that was great.
Yeah, sometimes just getting creative in that sense for fees that otherwise you might have otherwise had to pay. So I like it. So there's obviously been a huge push. Both of you guys are Masters age. We had Callie on a few weeks ago and talked about that. And then also I know the Goat Hill event, I think, jump on board in some capacity. Maybe it's even the kickoff event to the Masters Tour. Were you guys asked to be part of that, or does that fit into the scheme? Or is that completely separate in terms of where Callie's going and what she's doing?
Are we all getting an RV and going to tour together?
Yeah, let's
go,
do
boys.
it. I'll
pick the music.
Going on tour,
Steve will bring the hot tub, and I'll bring my best bathing suit.
Is the old putting world champ coming back out on tour?
If I have to.
Down or what?
We'll make something happen. What are you guys affiliated with that or not? It just happens to be in California, and you guys are the weekend after.
Yeah, we are the weekend after. I wasn't sure a whole lot about the whole Masters tour.
Okay.
I just saw social media and stuff about it. We weren't asked to be a part of it.
Okay.
But Goat Hill's right. It's only 2 hours away down in San Diego, and I know Alan runs a great tournament. He has multiple courses he can work with there, so that's a great start there. So we'll see how things develop over the next year or so.
All right.
Yeah, shout out to Alan Risley, a.k.a. Pops. I always called him Pops. I've been friends with AJ and Alan for years, so glad to help them do whatever they need to do.
So if someone is on the fence about, hey, I want to go to somewhere warm, or I want to continue to be in somewhere warm, and I want to play disc golf early season, what would you say are some of the biggest selling points, and why should they be signing up to come play in this wintertime open?
That's a great question. Go ahead, smash it.
Well, I mean, being out in SoCal, a lot of the players are out in SoCal, or they usually go to Arizona in the off season to stay warm, keep their game up. This is where the tour kicks off. You got the back-to-back 8 tiers, then you got Vegas and Memorial. So it all starts over here before it starts moving out to NorCal and Texas and going all out there. So it's a good place to come out here, keep your game warm, keep training, and then hit the first West Coast circuit.
Yeah, when I was in AM, I always saw the Wintertime Open, the Vegas, which at the time I think was called the Gentlemen's Club Challenge, and then the Memorial Championship is kind of like the beginning of the season Triple Crown. If you could play really well at those 3 events, you were crushing it, and that was a great start to your season. As an AM, I was lucky enough to do that. So I didn't win all 3, but I won the Wintertime, then Vegas, and then I think it took like 8th or something at the Memorial. So that was a good start to my season. Unfortunately got hurt a couple months later, but yeah, I've always loved it as a beginning of the season type thing. You start out where it's warm and then work your way over east,
Yeah,
awesome.
I couldn't agree more, and I know I've kind of sold it that way a couple times tonight. Is just the fact that this really felt like a point where we're kicking off the season, and
this was always the big warm-up event for either the Elite Series or the
National
Pro Tour
or
National
whatever it was.
Tour.
Yeah, exactly.
That this was the event that everybody kind of wanted to come and play, so that they were ready for the next competition. This was where everyone's got their blood boiling.
Yeah. Now we see a couple of very recognizable faces and names right now: Luke Sampson, Gavin Babcock, Cupcake, Jacob Curtis, Andrew Miranda, Peter Welk, all registered. Clint Calvin, who I know I've seen quite a bit out there as well.
All studs, every one of them.
I know, and then I'm looking at your FPO field, which is also pretty incredible right off the bat. You got JK, Juliana Corver, Maria Oliva, and then Violet Main. I believe I met Violet at at the Phoenix Ladies Open this last year, and I know she's an up-and-comer as well. Or has been on the scene for a little while, but is continuing to make waves. Have you guys thought about selling it this way just a little bit and saying, come play, some of the DGPT All-Stars are not going to be in your way, like, because they're going to be in Arizona, and so the competition isn't quite as fierce. Now, clearly you got good players, but I'd really be pitching it as like, hey, I guarantee you Waisaki's not going to beat you this weekend. Like, that's the way I would sell it.
I don't know. JK is such a badass still.
That's
She's
true.
Masters age, and she is still smashing everybody. I think Maria Oliva is going to be future world champion. Mark my words. She's that good. She's always been awesome. You know, she cleans up a couple parts per game. She's going to be unstoppable. It's going to be amazing. So, ladies, if you want some amazing competition, come to this tournament. Get your butt kicked. They'll show you how to do it.
I was just going to say, that might be true on the FPO side. MPO side, yeah. MPO side, it also A-tier action up for grabs, which is pretty awesome to see. What are some of the ways that, again, I ask you to share so the entire world can maybe learn from it. What are some of the ways that fundraising and sponsorship work for an event like this? What are you guys doing, and what are ways people can support the event?
Yeah. Like you said, a lot of the early bird registration that we opened up helped a lot. We got fundraiser discs that we're selling. They're going to be going up this week. And, we have different vendors come in also to support the event. They always kick in to go out there and sell their merchandise and that kind of stuff too. So, different things like that, fundraising, everybody wants fundraiser discs. So that's probably the best way to do it.
Okay.
Yeah, we had last year we had Victim Jerky. It's a local disc golf guy that plays, competes out here in the Masters age. I think it's Am Masters, but he owns his own little beef jerky company. So, and they're amazing. Yeah. They're so good. Fantastic. Yeah, so good. Shout out to Victim Jerky. Hey, Yep. We had Philo set up a booth last year. He did pretty well. So yeah, it's cool. And he was out signing discs and teaching people how to play when they asked. So
yeah, I was gonna follow that up with, is there any structured, either formal or somewhat informal opportunities like that in terms of a clinic or doubles? Some events have those. Again, they may or may not be directly on your plate, but do you know of any of those things being organized or structured?
Yeah, we're hoping to do. Been talking to Steve about this, doing like a wintertime warm up type thing. So make it a doubles event, and then have that be a fundraiser, a straight up fundraiser for the event. We didn't get as many early bird signups this year, so we're gonna have to fill the gaps there because it helped us a ton last year with all the things we had to pay for. This year, again, like I said, it costs more, so we're gonna have to do something. So probably run a little something on the weekend at Oak Grove, wintertime warm up. We'll do the wintertime layout, which is far different than probably what you played, Terry, when you came out. Extended holes, some par fives, all par fours. Sorry, no par fives. I
guess par 62.
Par 62, yeah, par 62. So pretty tough layout. And then even the short holes, the two shortest holes are like island holes. So yeah, it's nuts.
My favorite.
Yeah.
So follow up to that is, being a tournament director like yourself, Mike, obviously comes with certain obligations and or sacrifices that have to be made. Are neither of you playing in the event? Is that what I understand, or no?
So last year would have been Steve's 31st year in a row. Is that right?
35th? No, 34th.
34th year in a row. I'm bad with math, apparently. Yeah, and because he was the tournament director for the pro weekend, he was not allowed because that was a new rule last year, I think.
Okay.
And I offered. I said, "Hey, man, you want me to be the tournament director?" He's like, "Nah, it's kind of time, So I think sometimes streaks just have to end. That was a long time to play that in a row. I played the tournament for 10 years in a row, and now my streak ends as well. So I've been playing it since 2012. So, yeah, I forgot what the question was. What was the
Are
question?
either of you playing?
Answer that like a damn politician.
I think the question was for 500. Are either of you playing and competing? The answer is
Yeah.
no.
The answer is
We're
no.
not allowed to. We're not allowed to.
Not allowed to play.
Okay.
Yeah. I could, because I play open and he's the tournament director technically for the pro weekend. I could, but I'm not going to do that. I
Sure.
did it last year and it wasn't much help on the pro
Yeah.
weekend. So
The best
I'd
way to
rather-
ruin your disc golf game is to get involved in disc golf.
Yeah.
We've all done it. We've all been there. You and I had played what, like
run the tournament.
10
Yeah.
or 15 years of Manitowoc, and then
Yeah.
that was it. And then we started being behind the scenes, and it wrecked us.
Racked him.
Did Stephen Avery ever show up to your tournament out there?
No,
That's
No.
too bad.
don't believe he did.
That's too bad.
Yeah.
We should. Is he busy? What's he up to?
I think he's still busy. I think he's still
Is he?
busy.
What's he doing?
I don't know.
What's he doing these days?
To be fair, I still have never watched the series.
Are you making a murder joke when you live in California? I mean, how many serial killers? I think I can turn on Netflix and there's like 20 different documentaries on California serial killers.
Almost all of them. Almost all of them.
Yeah. All in LA too.
Yeah. So, anything out of the ordinary for either of you this year? I know you kind of just told us where you're playing, but is there anything else? Steve, I think about specifically with Legacy, whether it be releases or discs or sponsorships or whatever. Is there anything out of the ordinary for either of you here in 2023?
No, I mean, I think I'm going to keep it consistent. Just play my local events. I'm definitely running a lot more events now. I'm kind of taking on that role. Like I said, I got in good with LA County over at my course at Silmar, so I'll be running a lot of stuff there, doing a lot of maintenance on the course. But for the most part, I am running more events, and I don't know how much tournaments I'll be playing. I do want to play some of the majors and masters, hopefully Pro Worlds, and maybe a couple other Elite Series, but that's probably it for me.
I want to hike the PCT.
What?
The PCT, the Pacific Crest Trail. I want to hike that.
Okay.
You have to sign
Okay.
up for it in October to do it the next year. And I didn't sign up for it this year so that I could do it next year. Or wait, this year. The year just passed. You know what I'm saying? I can't do it in
okay.
2023. I'm going to do it in 2024. That's
Okay.
huge, though. That's what you're walking across America, basically.
I
You
like
walk
it.
from Mexico to Canada.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's nuts.
That's awesome.
So I'm going to go do that in 2024. So you're not going to see me.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
It's good knowing you.
Just go for a quick walk.
Just a quick walk. Just 2,450
I mean,
miles.
you got to throw all the way across, all the way to
Yeah. That sounds like the new
And
Stokely
now-
longest hole
how many shots it takes.
challenge.
Oh.
Steve, I wouldn't be doing my job if I didn't
Harass you.
call you out on seeing you at some of these. Callie McMorrin specifically created a tour. It might as well be called the Steve Rico Masters Tour. She creates a tour so that we can see Steve Rico in all of his Masters glory. You too, Mike. But Steve, we can see you in all of your Masters glory. And now you're telling me you're not getting on the tour and playing every stop. I'm not going to say I'm pissed off, but I'm pissed off.
I do want to play some of those events. I just, I'm not going to go on. Bro, I'm 44. I'm not going on tour to. There's like 20 events.
Yeah.
He's got like 2
But
or
I
3
do
jobs
want-
he's got.
I don't give a crap. This tour
wanna
is for
support-
you.
I do want to support the tour. I am going to play them. I don't know if I'm going to play. I don't know how many I'm going to play, but I am going to play some.
20
So
of the 22?
no, like 5.
I'm never
I
doing
mean-
another thing for you again. If that's
Do you know how many Masters players out there that are on tour?
all of the ones you are going to beat. That's all. Where's hole 1 and what's course record, right? Like, that's all you need to know.
We'll see. Are you going to be there filming?
No, I'm busy.
Oh
Yeah. All right.
All right. No. Here's my slightly more serious question, though. What do you make of that? That we've arrived here? It is 2023. and a Masters Tour exists. Callie McMorrin's taking it on. It's going to be obviously a huge effort. She's putting in a ton of work already and has a big year in front of her. What do you make? Here we are, 2023, a Masters Tour. What's your take on that?
Well, I'm glad to see it. Finally come to pass. It's an awesome thing. I hope it's a successful event and it continues throughout the years. I know, and she knows how to get the job done. She does a lot of events and that kind of thing. So, she's a great person to do this. So I'm looking forward to it. I do want to play some events, and I do want to support it.
Mike.
Yes.
What's the first event I'm going to see you at?
I don't know. You're doing that Mesa thing, right? Or wait, where was it?
Maricopa?
Is that in Mesa? Maricopa. You're doing that, right?
No, I'll be in Thailand.
Dang it.
But we may have a camera out there. We're working on some details there. Maybe not the Masters division. Okay, so I won't see you there. But,
you're not gonna see me there. I don't know. I've had some struggles with disc golf lately. I mean, obviously, the biggest issue is not the injuries, which I've dealt with a ton of those. Pretty active, so I do a lot of things. The first injury that I had was through baseball, and I broke my foot playing baseball, and it basically just ruined my season of disc golf, which I was more looking forward to than finishing a stupid adult league baseball league or whatever. So, so I don't know. Worse than that, I have to play against guys like this. We're the same freaking age. And I get so excited when I was playing AMS. I was like, cool, it was basically when I finish, I started playing this game late, by the way. Basically, when I finish doing AM stuff, I'm going to jump right into Masters. That's what's going to happen. But what happened? This guy turned 40. Philo turned 40. You got all of the big dogs from the early, late 90s and early 2000s all turning in the 40 range, and I got to deal with all of them. They're in my way. But I don't have the time to dedicate to disc golf like other people do. As your main job.
And that division's getting way tougher now. Also.
Yeah.
I'm gonna tell you a secret, Mike. Am Masters.
Yeah.
There you go.
I sense some podium finishes.
I'm just saying.
Probably podium on the podium.
I think you can podium.
If it's a big podium, you're there. Just those are options. Gotta do what you gotta do.
Gotta do what you gotta do. No, I've had a great time playing Pro Masters. It's been an awesome time. I think maybe just like 2 tournaments in, I won a tournament in Lake Kachuma. See if I have a trophy here. I don't. Lake Kachuma, beautiful course. There's 2 courses on that property. That's such an awesome event. It's called the Kachuma Lake Classic. Yeah. Something like that. Lake Kachuma Classic. Amazing event. Got off to a hot start and then just kind of fizzled. I played well at that tournament where I saw you and I did some commentary for you on that video that Johnny V made fun of.
Probably.
Yeah, I was. Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I would love to kind of dedicate more time to playing disc golf and getting better and all that. But, life happens. So.
And speaking of just that, about getting better and dedicating, Steve, gush on your brag about your nephew a little bit. We're seeing Cam come up, and it feels like definitely the torch has been passed, or he's taking it, however you want to call it. But your nephew Cam is doing some work out there in the pro division, isn't he?
Yeah, yep. He's 17. He's getting better. He did beat me at a little local seats here not too long ago, and that was great to see him. He bombs. He throws 500 plus, just like every other kid out there does now. And he's playing a lot of golf. He's dedicating a lot of time to it. So in the next year or 2, he's going to be out there playing on the tour.
Yeah, it is really kind of gross how all these young kids just bomb.
It's terrible.
All I'm going to say is I think it's the plastic.
I think they should go back to throwing vipers and whippets and cobras.
Yes.
And
Yep.
Yeah.
Right.
Give them a
only throw
stingray and a
450.
birdie, and we'll see what they can do.
Yeah, try to sidearm a stingray and see how that works out for you.
Yeah, ride that Marauder. Something. Did you throw a Marauder once? You did.
No,
What is a Marauder? What is that?
That was Discraft. Yeah,
Doing
okay.
clips in the
You're an Eclipse guy. See, I was a Tracer guy. You would be an Eclipse guy. That's
I
so
threw
like
I
you.
threw
Yeah,
both
like
of
the
those.
Shadow. The Shadow was a badass for the
Oh God, you would probably through the Hawk too when they DOS.
Oh man.
Typhoon.
You guys may as well be speaking another language. I don't know what's going on here.
Yeah.
When I first started, the farthest flying disc was the Wraith. So,
You
yeah.
would you come in 2007? Jeez.
I first played in 2003. It was like one of those things that I played like a handful of times per year. And I had a Wraith. I think I had what was that? Discraft XL. Was that a thing back then?
Yeah.
That
I had
was.
one of those.
Yeah.
I think I putted with a super soft magnet. What was my mid?
That was the wrong kind of magnet. You wanted the 4-chain hard magnet.
Yeah.
That was the better one.
Or
Was
a
it? Okay.
pink one
Yeah.
with Steve Rico's name on it.
Ooh.
Oh yeah, you remember those?
Yeah.
Your pinkies. Steve. So many. All these years within the PDGA, your PDGA 46666. Here we are entering yet a new era. I know, Nate Heinold talked about spectators, talked about tournaments, talked about all these things that we're growing into, we're evolving into. What do you see? Because you wear all these different hats of both being a superstar player and a tournament director and a manufacturer. Where's disc golf headed, and what could you guess next for us? Because you've seen it all.
Yeah, I mean it's definitely evolved. Really big in the last 5 years. Going from now you have the Elite Series. They're selling tickets out there. It's just growing and growing. The media part of it. I mean, there's so many different avenues now of media, and it's great to see. The PDJ numbers are just stacking up. They're going up and up. Now they're like 200 and I don't know what now, 1,000.
Almost 250.
Yeah, the 241 at the beginning of the year, I think I saw. So
there's so many people coming into the game now. I think it's just a matter of time for those like really, really big sponsors, like just like the regular golf tour. I think that's coming up really soon.
Anything that you're afraid of in seeing with this growth and development?
I just hope it continues. Hope it doesn't get ahead of ourselves and get burned out because we're moving at such a rapid pace. But I don't know. What do you think?
Well, when I was younger, I used to be a sponsored rollerblader, and that was such a niche thing at the time. And
Tell me you're 40 without telling me you're 40.
I know. So I was like a sponsored skater, and a couple different places sponsored me and things like that. And what I watched happen with that industry is it overexpanded too much too quickly. Too many people were taking over the manufacturing roles. Does that make sense? Like at the time there was one skate, okay, rollerblade, and then there was Rossi's, and then there was Solomon came into the game, K2 came into the game, those companies from snowboarding, okay? And so when all those came in, all of a sudden now you've got Razors, and like all these other brands started coming in. And then think about how many different wheel brands you needed, a gazillion wheel brands and a bunch of t-shirt brands. And it just oversaturated the market, and it just killed itself because nobody could make money anymore. It wasn't expanding at the speed that the manufacturers were expanding, if that makes any sense. I'm afraid of that happening to disc golf.
Wow, which is what I love that story, because just yesterday, I think it was the Twitters, I saw someone say we need less manufacturers, because they were appalled and disgusted with the disc golf manufacturers. And my gut reaction to that is that who effing cares? Let them sort it out. If they fail, they fail. Yeah. I mean, you know, we don't want them to, or they don't want to, but if they, or their competitors want them to fail. But if they fail, they fail. And if they make 1 disc or 60 discs, what's it to you? Don't buy it if you don't want it. So I guess I'd throw that back at you and say, is that from an industry standpoint, is it too bad if we have too many disc manufacturers? Steve, you be quiet. Mike, could there be too many disc manufacturers?
I think there could be too many. You know, you go to a world championship and now you've got 14 manufacturers there. waiting for you to buy their discs, and from a purchaser standpoint, are you going to be loyal to just one brand? And if so, how long are they going to stick around? What's going to end up happening, I think, is a lot of those brands are going to fail, and you're going to have some of the I almost called them the legacy brands, the ones that were around at the beginning. You'll have Legacy and Innova and Discraft and a handful of others. They'll make it, but then you're going to have all of the other ones that popped up after that, maybe not make it, I think.
And whose problem is that, though, outside of those brands that fail? Of course, it's their problem, but
right.
Do you feel like the sport will suffer?
No, but also, like, I think another thing that yes, I do think the sport will suffer if it overexpands, for sure. But the people that suffer from that are not the people buying the discs. They can move on to another brand. There's another Destroyer out there. There's another another Judge. Somebody's going to make another Judge. Okay. It's just going to happen. So if those disc manufacturers fail, there will be something else you can put right in there. Like when I started throwing legacy discs, I took out all of the discs that were similar. I mean, some of them went even further with legacy. Some of them didn't, but they were more consistently made, whatever it might have been. You'll find a replacement. For sure. So these companies need to be on the ball and really, I'm not talking directly to you. I think Legacy makes fantastic stuff. I've been throwing the Outlaw ever since it came out. It took the Destroyer completely out of my bag. And then a couple other discs like the Patriot. Nobody makes a Patriot. A lot of people say Patriot is a Leopard. That's total BS. It's not even close to a Leopard. I can throw a Patriot, 450 feet. I can't throw a Leopard 450 feet. And it doesn't even have the same flight pattern. What are we even talking about? So I don't know why people even say that. So I think the Patriot, the Outlaw, and the Rival are completely unmatched in the marketplace. I don't think there's a better disc in those categories, in my opinion.
Steve, how much you paying this guy? Because
he doesn't pay me anything. I have not been on his team for 3 years.
You brought the subject up, guys.
Yeah.
No, I love it.
We just heard he's sponsored by Rollerblade.
Good call. Sorry about that. Steve, what is in the hopper for Legacy in terms of molds? Is there a concern to make more molds or to have just more production of the discs you do have, or whatever it is?
No, we need to get a couple more molds out there in the lineup. We got mostly everything covered. We are missing a couple slots that we need to fill in, but just being consistent, making good product, good plastic. A lot of companies out there are making good stuff, so it's just important just to keep making good product, be consistent as possible, and I think that's the main thing. You hear it all the time, like, oh, well, this company's more consistent, that company's more consistent. Everybody's kind of all over the place, and that's just the way manufacturing goes, So, but we're trying to keep it as close as we can as manufacturers. We want to try to keep our product as close as we can and keep it consistent as possible. Keep the production up and just make quality stuff out there. And just that way, when during COVID, the manufacturing part of it just got saturated. There's so many new companies out there now that figured, oh, well, right now is a good time to get in and make money in disc golf. So all these companies popped up, and they kind of saturated the whole sport and product and disc. So it's important to keep your product consistent and looking good.
Earlier, we were talking to Josh from Lone Star, and of course, they're very much a newer player in the game and have come out very aggressive. But they talked about how just holding a disc, almost having this immediate knowledge of either the plastic that's in it or if it's just well made. Do you feel like you have a similar eye and feel these days? You can pick up yours or anyone else's disc and you feel like you kind of know it right away, like, oh, this was well made or this feels good?
Can I answer that question? I was in his factory one time and they made me put my hand behind my back, my hands behind my back, and tell them which mold it was. And I nailed 4 out of 4, and then Steve did like 7 out of 7, and I handed him stuff that was not even legacy. I handed him like 3 different brands. And he was like, well, that's a whatever. And he named it. I was like, what the heck? You can tell. You can totally tell.
Yeah.
And if you're in the business like he is, like for so long, and I'm sure you can do the same thing too.
I mean, there's times when you know, we test a lot of plastic. We get a lot of samples come in and we test it all out and we'll run it. And I know right away if I don't like it. I'm like, yeah, I don't like it. It doesn't run good. It doesn't feel good. And I've had stuff that actually, you know, I'm like, oh, this does feel nice. And then you throw it and it just rolls over, you know? So, yeah, so you get a lot of that stuff, and you know, you go with what's more consistent. But yeah, you know, for the most part, you know, when you grab something, you're like, oh yeah, that feels good. I like that. You know, so
I think a similar thing is happening with discs that was happening with rollerblading too. I know some guys that owned a wheel company in rollerblading. Plastic is so touchy, and you're not going to get the same source every time. You know, you're talking about urethane and all these different types of plastics that create wheels and I guess discs too. But you know, you might buy the same box, the same number from the same company, and then when that gets shipped to you, it has a totally different. You run through that wheel so much faster, and you can't. And the consumer's like, "What happened to these wheels? These wheels were amazing." Well, it's just you're talking about plastic. It's not. I don't know if it's like that with discs too, but it was like that with rollerblading wheels for sure.
Yeah, I remember having to put different wheels on my rollerblades when we do street hockey. So I would go through wheels so quickly. E&J. Yeah, always got my wheels from E&J.
That's where I bought some Frisbees from.
They sold discs too. That's right. That's probably where I bought my first disc.
During the shortage of material that everybody was going through for a while, you know, we're getting plastic from different sources that we don't get it from, you know, and we got a lot of stuff that was not running very good. You know, it didn't run very good in the machines. All the different cooling times and pressures that you had to use for these other plastics that you're using, and a lot of it wasn't running very good. So we had to scrap a lot of parts that we're not used to doing. So a lot of stuff that we made, we were scrapping. You know, every one out of every 4 shots that came out, we were just throwing it in the pile.
Yeah.
Now, Steve, of course, this is very timely in the sense that we see a lot of companies making moves with regard to sponsorship, and some companies I feel like have very blatantly said like, oh, you know, they're not with us anymore. We wish them the best of luck. They're moving on. Some people, like Lone Star, for instance, very actively acquiring a lot of different players. What are sponsorship negotiations and contracts and those conversations? How tough are those when you're such a skilled player yourself, the owner of the company? I look at you in a similar sense to what I look at in EMAC when you're trying to make those decisions. Is that tough for you as someone who's also skilled, but not out there playing nearly as much as you used to?
Yeah, I mean it's really tough. There's somebody, like I said, there's so many now like new young players that come in the game, and a lot of them have a lot of skills. A lot of guys want a lot, but they've never been out there on the road. They never hit the tour before. I mean, they're great local, but they don't know what it's like to be out there on the road, and it's hard to put a value on something like that, the social media presence now is a huge thing. How big is your social media following? That's like the number one thing nowadays. So there's so many different avenues that you have to compare and see, what the worth is on players and stuff like that, so it's tough, and it's constantly like, evolving. There's always new players, and they go from one manufacturer and they don't get what they want, they go to the next one, they just keep going. Now there's so many companies now, somebody's going to pay them what they want, or negotiate pretty close to their value. So it's really tough, actually.
I cannot imagine. It seems like, especially someone like yourself, as I said, who so actively on tour playing and at one point beating probably a good number of these players, and now they're coming after you, hoping for this. They want to, of course, get their best possible contract, and you have to weigh out those dollars and cents and how that all shakes out. And then Johnny just pulled it up a moment ago. Is there a fresh new look to the LegacyDisc.com website? Is that what I'm seeing?
Yeah, we've been trying to update it and work on it, make it look good, add some more features to it. and yeah, it's been.
I like
it's
it.
been actually good.
It looks sharp. I'm
Yep.
seeing it right
all
now.
the different plastics, the flight charts out there, all the different discs, obviously in different gear. It's looking good.
Yeah, thank you.
I like you. All right, boys. I'm sorry, my mind already wandered to like the next hot tub exchange. I don't know. It's getting late here. Wintertime Open, is that currently, well, to wrap that up, is there currently a title or presenting sponsor, or is that available? Where does that stand in case anybody's interested?
We have 2 title sponsors for the pro weekend. It is Legacy Discs.
Okay.
And for the AM weekend, it's pindeepdiscgolf.com. That's my company. You asked what I do earlier. That's one of the things that I do. I run a disc golf website. It's an online shop. You can order it from me, and I ship it out normally very fast. I've made a couple mistakes. I'll be totally honest. For some reason, my website like logged itself off. And I was like, I have not an order in like a week. What's going on here? And then I get an email like, you got paid $250. And I was like, what the heck? And I log in and it's like 5 days old. And I messaged him. I was like, oh, dude, I'm so sorry. But, he was super cool about it. So,
okay.
Yeah, Pin Deep Disc Golf is the presenting for AM, and then Legacy Discs is the presenting for the professional weekend.
Love it. All right, and Disc Golf Scene is the place where they can go sign up. If they're too lazy to type all that in, they could go find the event on the PDGA page, listed as an A tier. Anything else before we let you guys go tonight?
Yeah, we have a Facebook page. It's just Wintertime Open on Facebook. That you'll get all the updates, anything that we have there. We like to do a video caddy book. We did it the last couple years. Basically, I do drone footage, as you know. I've done it for your channel before in the past, and we do the fly through on the course, and then Steve and I talk about the course as we fly through, and just kind of give a breakdown what the out of bounds rules are, any kind of drop zone things like that, distances, all that kind of good stuff. So we do a video caddy book. Everybody seemed to really appreciate that.
That's awesome. I like that.
I like it as well. And I'm going to put a link out there in the chat if anyone is interested. If you get your chance, make sure you head over to play a little disc golf on such a historic and iconic course. You can see the first basket in the ground, and just to know all the history and the stories and the experiences and the growth that's coming out of that course. And yeah. All right, boys. Go ahead.
Something cool at Oak Grove, really quick. Last thing, there's a really old basket there in the ground. We've dubbed it the Iron Maiden. It's like a basket made out of iron, and it's kind of like a rite of passage. If you play the course, you have to go over and throw a couple putts on it. It's awesome. It's really cool. It used to be for several years lost and gone forever. Nobody knew it was there. It was covered. An oak tree actually grew through it. So the branches went through it. So somebody came in and trimmed it all up, and now it's back to working order. So you can go putt on it. So pretty cool.
Love it. And of course, just like you said, a rite of passage. When I was there, I took a few putts. Of course, took pictures with it. The whole 9 yards. It's exactly what you have to do when you're out there. It's like a pilgrimage out there in at that course. You have to do it. Well, boys, we appreciate the insight. We appreciate the plans here for your 2023 event, and look forward to seeing you. I won't be able to see you there, but I'm sure I'm going to see you out on a course otherwise. And of course, people can go get signed up and get registered for the tournament. And we hope to hear some great stories from what goes down out there.
Yeah, thanks for having us. Appreciate you guys.
Always.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Of course, guys. Have a good night. We'll talk soon.
All right, guys.
All right,
See ya.
See ya.
All righty. And you can't talk about Oak Grove without mentioning Philo, so I will quickly put two and two together, and that Philo was just here this last weekend in the Milwaukee area.
New Year's Eve, correct?
New Year's Eve, the indoor disc golf experience was taking place over at what's called the Brookfield Soccer Complex.
Were you able to get out there?
I was not able
Neither
to get over there, but I know that Philo, there was a great video that was released by Jeff Showers, and so that was taking place. And in a couple of weeks, about 10 days or so, 9 or 10 days from now, in a couple of weekends, Nate Sexton will be the special guest.
Are you going to get out there for
I
that
again
one?
will not be around, unfortunately. I hate it when our top level pros come to town and I'm not able to go check in with them. But Nate Sexton is going to be coming to town. And I shouldn't be advertising or talking about it because I think it's already pretty much sold out. But
Well, you know.
It's still happening, and it's great to see. And then I also wanted to get a quick shout out in there. As soon as I posted that we were going live tonight, I saw none other than Christine King posted something about her Poppy series doing well, a women's only series, but also the fact that I think it had raised $500 for Uplay. So I wanted to say congrats and nice work. She said she wants to come on and talk about it, which I think sounds like a great idea, but she said, I'm almost done with the Poppy series. I'd love to be on to talk about it. We also did a fundraiser and donated $500 to Uplay. So
that's great.
Nice work, and keep it up. I know that's I am interested in hearing more about that series as well, because it gets talked about every single year, as it should. And I know they're doing good things. Yeah. I think there's probably 9 more things that I probably had lingering around of things to talk about, but I can't think of them right now. Do you have anything before we do some drawings?
No, I was just gonna. Good call, drawings. No, I was just gonna ask you, if you weren't out at the Philo, what did you do for New Year's? I know you had.
I was partying hard after my long day of running a C tier. It was overall it was somewhat of a subdued New Year's. Nothing special on my end. Did you get wild?
Oh, super wild.
Yeah, you would.
No.
Did you get in the hot tub with those guys?
Hot tub time machine?
Yeah, I bet.
No, we just had some friends over here to the house. I was telling you this story. They're friends of my son's friend's parents, and they were over to the house, and one of the sons has a little YouTube channel. And I mean little. He says he has 5 subscribers.
Sweet.
Yep. And
yeah,
so
everybody started with 0.
That's right. So I said, I'll subscribe. What's the thing? And it's private and hidden, so you can't subscribe to it. I was like, oh, well, that's going to be a problem for subscribers. But the little 10-year-old sat down in your chair right here, and he was awestruck at our lights and a camera and all the monitors we have. And he was just like, wow. And he kept asking me all these questions about like the podcast and this and that. And it was a really kind of a cute moment, because he was not expecting it when he walked into our little studio. He had no clue, kind of. I think he had heard through my daughter that I have a podcast, as she likes to kind of chat about it. But he was kind of awestruck, because he's got to do a podcast for his school project, which I think is kind of fun. It's a different medium. You know, it's not just like a PowerPoint presentation or something like that.
Certainly.
So they're doing something on the Black Plague, nice and timely.
Yeah.
So,
Okay.
kind of fun. All right, I'm gonna get the people all here.
Yeah, and as you do that, I will fill some time and talk briefly. Our friends over at Ace Run Production, they had their quarterly podcast, and
breaking news.
They were breaking some big news, and here we are trying to get caught up a few days later to what they were doing. They had Stacey Ronsley on the show, where Stacey had an Ace Run Productions exclusive, and broke it on the show that she would be joining Team Castoplast. So congrats to her. Congrats to Castoplast picking up Stacey Ronsley. Also on the show.
It was a little surprise to Innova, I think. I only joke because like 2 days later, on the 1st, they announced their team, and they had her listed on the
still
team.
Had her name on there.
Like it was like dated New Year's. Here's our team, and she was on there along with AJ Carey, which I thought was like.
And then I was just going to say AJ Carey and Deanne Carey also, I believe we saw signatures with them heading over to Lone Star.
Yes.
So congratulations to them. And Deanne broke news. I think it was exclusive there. Another exclusive, thanks to Ace Run, was that Deanne said she's going to be working with Discology as a new bag sponsor as opposed to Upper Park. So figured I'd just pass those on, and then I jumped on and ruined their show and jumped into their chat and also online with them and yammered on for a while.
Did you Smashbox it? Did you turn it into like a 3-hour
No.
podcast?
To be fair, they already were like a 2-hour show. And then I think we went another 2 hours. And
so you did. You wrecked it.
But they were already going on, I think, far longer than they planned. I think they had the same problem that we do, which is sometimes you just don't want to be done. The next thing you know, you're talking and talking and
talking.
Things just keep on rolling.
Today I want to apologize.
Ooh, do it. Do it again.
To Robert Damon and Gordon Johnson, because I again, smashbox.tv/weekly giveaways. Suddenly we've got 6 people here that signed up for the weekly giveaway on the website. It was just
you do not have to be
a Patreon supporter in order to be eligible for our giveaway. So where it was just like 2 of them, maybe a third, sometimes JC Stevens dropped in, but suddenly we've got a few more people.
Oh, the competition's getting more fierce.
It's getting hot and heavy.
Okay. Little chat talking about the wintertime layout. Glenn and others talking about the Paul Macbeth and who used to play in the wintertime. That it was in seriousness when I said that playing in that wintertime event is a great way to get geared up for the season, as you mentioned, but also to go after an A-tier win. And in California, and you have some of our I don't know if big dogs is the right word, but we have our All-Star weekend competing with them, or not competing with them, should I say. The All-Stars will be taking place in Arizona. So a few of the names that you often see on top of the leaderboard, they won't be in your way. They will be in another place doing other competitive disc golf things. So I feel like it just opens up your chances a little bit greater and wider to go pick up an A-tier win. That's what I'm saying. Now, I'm not saying get all Yuli on them and hide behind trees and
and time them or maybe start filming them creepily.
Yeah, or whatever you got to do. I'm not saying playing any of those games, but whatever it takes.
Well, Terry, we are ready for our weekly giveaway.
All right.
We have 150 people eligible for our weekly giveaway. You can be eligible by going to smashbox.tv/weekly giveaways, or the better and best way to do it is go to patreon.com/smashboxtv, where you can then be automatically entered in. You don't even have to think about going to the website and putting in all your information. We're going to take your information and probably sell it to the highest bidder.
That's what I did.
And,
just send them gift cards. That's all they ask for. All my friends, they just want gift cards.
They just want gift cards. So we have 150 people eligible for our giveaway tonight, Terry.
Oh, gosh, we got to go with the first. It is the first podcast of the year, and we're just going to generate the first lucky person.
Right. I sorted it by first name tonight.
That makes sense. It's the first.
It's the first.
Yeah, so
22.
22. My first name,
22.
It's going to be a J.
No, it's way before that. 22?
Probably a
C. 22 is Carl Davis.
Congratulations,
Carl Davis. Patreon supporter. Oh, congratulations, Carl. Patreon supporter at the $5 level.
Thank you, Carl. We love you more than most. Which means Carl's staring at us on this wall right here.
He might be over there somewhere.
Ooh-wee. I like that.
I like it too.
Luke Butch is on the board, chiming in from Thailand. Luke, hope you're well, buddy, and looking forward to seeing if we can make some details work. He says that you should come to Thailand with me.
I would love to come to Thailand with you.
I'm saying that's where all the cool people named Terry and Shasta and Scott Stokely will be. That I don't know.
I mean, yeah,
I'm just saying that's where we'll be.
I don't think I'm going to be able to make 2 hopefully international travels this year. I'm hoping for 1. So hoping to go over to Europe. So leaving for Thailand would probably not work out so well for me.
Okay. Well, I'll go. I'll let you know how it is.
You let me know how it is, Tear Bear.
I'll report back. All right, guys. Well, it looks like we can go ahead and call it. I mean, 2023, not much is changing. It's still 3.5 hours for you guys. Thank you to everyone that joined us tonight. We spoke with Josh from Lone Star. We talked to Nate from the PDGA and Ledgestone, and we also talked to Mike and Steve over there from the Wintertime Open. So thank you, everyone, for joining us. Next week, we got anything special in store?
I'm sure more announcements for sponsorship. Maybe we'll have one of a player who signs next week. That would be fun.
Ooh. It's going to be some sweet action coming at you guys. All right. Smashbox TV podcast 436 after show is officially done and complete. We're going to sign off. For Johnny V, I'm Terry Miller, the Disc Golf Guy. We'll see you next week. You step inside the Smashbox.